What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday, I think it is. Um, this is gonna be a really chill stream, to be honest. I couldn't bring myself to play Star Citizen this evening with 323 so close. But we have Invictus coming up, Invictus launch week, Fleet Week, really soon. It's like a week and a half. We have 323 coming out, let's guess, tomorrow or the next day. They said they're aiming for early this week, unless anything goes wrong. It'll be soon. And so I thought there's probably a chance that there's some new people out there who don't either realize how many ships there are in this game, know much about all the ships, know how to find all the ships on the website, and probably don't have context on each of them. So we're just going to hang out. We're going to scroll through some ships. We're going to watch some videos. We're going to kind of chat about what they're all about. Jump in chat, ask questions as I go through them. Some will be really quick. Some will be, much longer as I go into detail on the ones that you can tell that I care about. Something to note, I will tell you if the ship is purchasable in-game or not. I will tell you, if it's pledge only or concept only or backlog or rumored. What I won't do is talk about pricing, because that's so in flux. The ship store pricing, the pledge store, those can change, and I never recommend pledging ships you don't need to. And the in-store pricing is changing dramatically in 323, and it's probably going to change again, down the road as the economy balances. So I'll probably just say things like it's cheap, it's expensive, that sort of thing. So first thing I'm going to do, we're going to go through the website. There's a section of the website called All Ships under the Pledge Store. And we're just going to go through. We're going to see, what there is, what you might not have heard of. And you guys can just jump in chat and ask me to stop, ask me to pause, ask a question about the ship, whatever. Of course, most people who watch my videos watch them after. So feel free to jump in the comments and let me know if I missed something. Let me know if you disagree with something, that kind of thing. So let's get started. I know some of you guys are going to tune in now, which is cool. I see a couple people trickling in. If you join after and you don't know which ship we're on or whatever, just scroll back once it goes live. Please don't ask me to go back to a ship that's like 30 ships back, but feel free to ask questions about the ones that I'm on. So we're just going to start from the top on the website. This is the Hurricane. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the Hurricane. It's a heavy fighter. It's meant for 2 people. It's got a lot of firepower for 2 people. It's not very expensive in game or to pledge. It's just kind of a staple, especially in heavy ship PvP. It's a PvE godsend. I haven't tried it in 323 and master modes yet, so I can't comment on its new flight profile. But heavy ship, this one will be sold at Invictus. You could rent it for free. And that's something I'll do is I'll call out the ones that can be rented at Invictus, which ones are military, which ones aren't. All right, the second is one of my favorites. This is the Terapin. We'll click on the Terapin because I love the Terapin. So the Terapin is like a recon ship, recon and stealth, neither of which really exist in the game yet. Data, exploration, and stealth aren't really things. Stealth, kind of. You can kind of run a lower signature on your ship and be harder to detect or lock onto, but true stealth isn't in the game yet. I just love the design of this ship. I think she's gorgeous. I always buy one in game. It's not particularly cheap in game. It was in 322. I know it's gone up by a lot in 323. It's not cheap to pledge. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's a specialized military craft. So once scanning and all that exists, it will be a very valuable ship in a fleet. It's fast and maneuverable, especially considering how armored it is. And that's the last thing, is it has an armored shell on it that is almost impenetrable. It doesn't really have any guns to speak of. It has 2 size 2s. But this thing is designed to take a hell of a beating and keep flying. I love it as a mission runner. I don't have one pledged or anything. I always pick it up in game. There are rumors that in the future we might see variants of the Terapin. So instead of having the scanning seat in the middle like this, that eventually there might be a variant that has, say, drop seats here and here. And then the top, instead of being a scanning disc, might be a turret. I'm fine with the Terapin the way it is. I will always buy one in game. But if they did like a dropship variant with a single SCU of cargo space for a crate, couple of drop seats, and maybe a turret on top, I'd be all over that. I would get that as like a solo flyer for myself, probably pledged almost immediately, just because I think it's a great little ship. Just fun to fly, maneuverable, lands everywhere. One of my favorites. Constellation Aquila. You know, we'll touch on each constellation separately in this video. And those of you who have watched me for a while, you know I've done ship shows before. So if there's a ship here that you're thinking like, why aren't you showing the inside of it? Why aren't you doing a walkthrough? I can't do a walkthrough of 200 plus ships in a single stream. We're just chatting about these right now. I will eventually go through each of these over time as actual ship show walkthroughs. So if you ever see a ship show going on, or you just have questions about one when you see me out doing a regular stream, let me know and I'll do a walkthrough of one of these. So kind of hold those comments for now, because this is just about kind of discussing them. So Terapin will probably be at Invictus to rent for free. Hurricane as well. They're both military craft. Constellation Aquila, she's an exploration craft, expedition, whatever you want to call it. If you know the constellation Andromeda, she has the same pilot weapons, less missiles, a nicer canopy or cockpit view or bridge view, and one less turret for multi-crew that is replaced with a scanning suite. It's my favorite constellation. I know it has less, gunship firepower than the Andromeda, but the bridge view is absolutely stunning. I've never actually checked to see if they have a picture of it here. Like, obviously this is the bridge here, but let's see if they have an interior view. Not really. But I mean, if you've seen the Andromeda, we'll get to that one in a second. It has more of a pointy front on it. This is this like beautiful, expansive bridge. If I hadn't fallen in love with the Corsair, I would have gone with the Aquila. I was telling myself, because it's a couple dollars more to pledge than the Corsair. So I was telling myself that if the Corsair was crap when it came out, that I would upgrade my Corsair to the Aquila. But I ended up loving the Corsair. This one will likely not be at Invictus. It's not a military craft of any kind. The Hornet Wildfire. So this is just the F7C Mark I with a paint on it. I don't think it even comes with different guns stock. It's the paint, this red kind of custom paint job. There's a lot of ships like this in the game that they kind of, I'm not going to call it a money grab because they're a business and I love the game and I love the company, but they sold a ship with a custom skin rather than just selling the skin as a way of kind of making a bit of extra cash. But that's all it is. It's just a Hornet with a paint job. Polaris. I feel like I'm the only streamer who's not putting their cover videos and their cover images as being Polaris related on every single video for the past week. There's a lot of hype around the Polaris right now. There's a lot of misleading comments and statements. I'm seeing a lot of guys putting, this video is about the Polaris, and it's not because they want the clicks. I'm not going to do that. But I will talk about it because we're talking about the ships here. So the Polaris is a capital class corvette. It's the smallest, fastest capital ship. Not to say it's small and fast, but it is the smallest and the fastest of that size class. The reason why everyone's hyped right now is because it was teased in a video for Invictus launch week that there's going to be a flyby. Now, you're going to see people telling you it's just a flyby, guaranteed it's not flyable. And you're going to see people saying, oh, 100% it's flyable. Nobody knows what they're talking about. No one has any clue what they're talking about. They're making it up for views or because they want to believe or copium or whatever. I'd say it's 70-30. Probably not. It's a capital ship. We know they were working on Grey Box a few months ago, then they went quiet about it. My guess is that they want the Polaris to be flyable for Invictus. Of course they do. It's a military flagship. It would be such a big moneymaker for them, for people who are willing to pledge a ship like that. But I don't think it's done. I think there's going to be a flyby. I think maybe it'll be on the showroom floor as an exterior only. I think it'll probably be flyable at IAE this year, or if Pyro makes it out before then, if we get 4.0 in the summer, like they've rumored for the past several years, maybe it'll come with that, but I don't think we're going to get it for Invictus. I should, because everyone's so stoked about it, I will touch on it for like an extra minute here as we go through the ship list. It is a capital ship. It's really big. I've seen a lot of guys talking about how they bought one solo and they're waiting for NPC crew. I mean, all the power to you. I don't think we're getting NPC crew until well after 1.0. I think that'll be a future DLC. This is a multi-crew ship. The pilot cannot fire the torpedoes. The torpedo gunner cannot load the torpedoes. Like, you need 5 people minimum to make this thing even remotely viable. But it's a gorgeous ship. Everyone's really excited right now. It's the big buzzworthy ship. I have one waiting pledged for our we have an in-game org, and I have one coming for us. Like, I'm one of those guys who bought one. I'm not making fun of them. I think expecting it to come in Invictus is a little bit optimistic. If it does, I'll be stoked. But my guess is no. But beautiful ship. In role, just because you guys know I love immersion, the closest thing to this is probably maybe the Rocinante from The Expanse. The Rossi is smaller than this ship, but the TV show versus video game is very misleading. Like, the Rossi is smaller and like Corsair size, but somehow has a bunch of torpedoes and room for 10 crew. So this is a military Corvette class torpedo bomber. So someone out there is going to get the name Rocinante for theirs, and they're hull limited. So that's why people are so excited about this ship. All right, moving on. Nobody had questions? No questions with the Polaris, really. All right. Mustang Alpha, we'll gloss right over. The Mustang is one of the, I believe, 3 Mustang starter ships. There's cargo, combat, and I think there's an exploration variant. I've never flown the Mustang myself. Good little starter. There's nothing wrong with it. You'll hear a lot of guys talking about how this ship is good and this ship is bad and this ship is garbage and this one's OP. It's personal preference. There's nothing wrong with the Mustangs or the Auroras or any of the Pisces, but it is a single seat fighter. I find it a little bit limiting. But in like the immersive world of Star Citizen, I say this to the guys in our group a lot. In the fictional world of Star Citizen, most people would not have a spaceship. Most people would live on a city like Area 18. They'd have a job, they'd work in marketing, or they'd be a bartender, or they'd be in construction, and they would go to bed at night and go home to their family, and they would never even think of owning a spaceship because the cheapest spaceship is like 300 grand. Like, it's not cheap. If you own a ship, you're already in the 1%. So if you're flying around in a Mustang, immersively, role-playing, you're already ahead of everybody else. But as far as the grand scope of ships in the game go, it's kind of a small, starting out, one person. Forget pledging for a minute. My stance on ships like this is, coming from playing Elite Dangerous, you would start in a ship like this, like a Sidewinder in Elite, and you would use it to work your way up. You'd fly the Mustang for a bit, then eventually they'll let us sell ships in game, so you would sell the Mustang or you would trade it in for a, I don't know, an Avenger, and then you would work your way up from that to a, let's say, a Cutlass or a Freelancer. But there's nothing wrong with this ship. If you're new to the game and you're watching this video after the fact on YouTube or whatever, nothing wrong with the Mustang. Not my personal preference for a starter, but it's totally fine. Hornet Mark 1. You guys have seen a lot about the Mark 2 lately. I won't go too much into the Mark 1. It's a fighter. It's a medium. It's effective. It's got decent firepower. I believe the stock one doesn't have a turret on top. You can add one in, but it has a little box holder here. I've never understood why, because when you're landed in a hangar, you can't get up there. It only really works if you're in 0G or low gravity. It's oddly placed, in my opinion, to have a box holder on the roof of your fighter, especially if you're in a gravity well. But it's a good ship. It's very popular. The Hornet Mark 1, now the Hornet Mark 2, the Super Hornet, the special editions like the Wildfire that we looked at. They're popular fighters for a reason. I will never say this is the best or the worst fighter. I'm not a believer that like the Lightning is the best fighter or that the Corsair is the best guy. I just don't think there's any best ship. But it's popular. If you guys have watched my Arena Commander stream from last week, I've been using the Hornet Mark 2. It's a good little ship. It's not my style. I'm not really a little fighter guy, but there's nothing wrong with the ship. Something to consider. Not very expensive in-game or for pledge. The Buccaneer. I'm going to click on this one. So they call it interdiction because it's fast. It's a fast little fighter and it's got really good firepower, but it's a glass cannon. It's made by Drake, like all their ships being glass cannons. It's upgunned, it's fast, it's maneuverable, kind of like the Cutlass for its weight class. But I think it's a cool little ship. I technically own one right now because the Corsair came with a Buccaneer to use an Arena Commander. And the current patch, your Arena Commander ships are also available in the Persistent Universe. So I have a Buccaneer that I fly around all the time. I think it looks cool. I think it's got a very neat silhouette to it. I wonder if we can get a good shot of it from here, from like above or something. If not, I'll do a stream on it like later this week and show them all. Like, look at this silhouette. It's just a cool little ship. I think it's a lot of fun to fly. This is the ship that I end up using when like I die in a bunker and my Corsair's down there and I respawn at the station. I just hop in the Buccaneer and fly it down and leave it there. But it's a fun little ship to fly. It's not expensive in-game or pledge. It'll probably be available at DefenseCon, Drake DefenseCon at the end of Fleet Week, which is coming up. So if you're brand new to the game and you're looking for an affordable fighter, if I had to choose between the Buccaneer and the Hornet, I'd probably choose the Buccaneer. Personal preference. But this is why I did this video, especially if you're new. If you're experienced, you guys know all this. You're just watching it because you like talking about ships, and feel free to ask me questions or whatever. If you're new, you're going to hear a lot of personal preference statements from me. Like the Buccaneer compared to the Hornet, one is not better than the other, in my opinion. But I think the Buccaneer is more fun to fly, personally. It's just so fast. It's just a lot of fun. Avenger Titan. If you have heard anything about Star Citizen, you've probably heard of the Avenger Titan. Purely because when people recommend a good starter ship, it is the most highly recommended ship in the game. You'll hear it called the Penguin. You'll hear it called the Avenger. This is just a special edition of it, the Renegade. This is actually the one that I started with the game. It's a specialty paint, but this is just the Avenger Titan. It has decent firepower. It has a bed, a little bit of cargo. It's maneuverable. It's fast. There are people who have pledged a lot of money in this game, who have spent 10, 15 grand. There's people who have spent 45 bucks and bought a starter pack with an Aurora, which we'll get to, and never spent more. But if somebody came to me, and I've told many a friend this, and they said, I want to get Star Citizen, I will buy one ship, I don't want to buy anything else, I'll buy everything else in game. Get the Avenger. Not that it's better than anything else, it's just the most well-rounded in its price point. A bed means you can log out in it, at least until they change the logging mechanics. The firepower is enough to dogfight, which is harder in 323, but it's doable. It has a little bit of space for boxes or for a ground vehicle. I believe, someone please correct me, but I believe that the rock fits in it. So it holds, I know at least holds the PTV, it'll hold the new bikes. The rock might fit. If not, it might be Cutless only, as the smallest one, but it's just a good ship. There's just nothing wrong with the Avenger. It's very hard to find somebody who says anything negative about it. I'm not the biggest fan of the exterior design. When I had it, I found it a little bit boring, but I thought it was good. Sprig and Elite. Thanks for the follow, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, good ship. I like the paint on this one. If you get a chance, if you're new and you're buying an Avenger Titan at Invictus launch week coming up in like a week and a half, try to get the Renegade. It's just a paint job. It's the same price. At least it was when I got it years ago. But that was my original pledge ship, and I really liked it. Starfare we're going to gloss over a little bit because it's not really a major mechanic in the game yet, but it's a refueling ship. I have used it once or twice. It's a little finicky. Refueling's not a major mechanic in the game yet. But if you guys played Elite, or if you watched me back before my streaming hiatus when I streamed a lot of Elite, you will have heard of the Fuel Rats. The Fuel Rats were like a squadron in Elite Dangerous that they went around helping people by refueling them. We were a PvP squadron. We went around defending people like them against pirates and griefers. And so we flew with them a lot. They would absolutely love this ship. It's a dedicated fueling platform. So someone's exploring Pyro, someone's exploring a massive system. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And someone's, you know, out stuck in their Corsair abandoned. Then this thing comes along, hooks up with them, fuels them up. It's a really cool ship. It works on some ships right now, but you don't need fueling in the current state of the game, so it's not one that I recommend. It also won't be sold at Invictus, but cool ship, buyable in game. You don't have to pledge it. Spriggan, I mean the Eclipse. It's nice to see a review of all the ships. Thank you. Yeah, no worries, man. I figured it's something cool to do. We got 323 coming out in a couple days. I didn't really feel like playing tonight. You know, it's a nice chill topic to talk about ships, right? But ask questions, ask to see things. I'm just going down the list. Thanks for tuning in. The Cartual, someone's going to tell me I pronounced that wrong. The alien ships, everyone pronounces them differently. That's how I pronounce it. It's a light fighter. I am not a fan of light fighters personally. A lot of people love them. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't do it for me. But it is one of the most uniquely designed ships in the game. It has a really cool animation when it lands. Like, look at that. That's the coolest alien shit I've ever seen. And then it lands and it folds up. It's just a really cool design. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't do it for me. I'm not an alien ship guy. but I think it's really cool. It's fun to fly. I've flown it for free during Alien Week every year it's been available. It is fantastic for PvP, like people are saying in chat. I just really enjoy it. So if you ever want to, test one for free, just wait until Alien Week, which should be coming up in June, I think, and you can try one for free. Avengers Stalker. So, cool thing about the Avenger Stalker. We talked about the Avenger Titan briefly, and I showed you the Renegade, which is just a paint job, like I mentioned. The Avenger is one of the ships that has multiple variants. This is the bounty hunting variant, which we know we are getting in-game pretty soon. I would guess with 4.0. I don't have any inside knowledge, but it makes sense that when Pyro comes out, that bounty hunting would expand. Right now, bounty hunting is just you kill people. And bounty hunting in the future will also be you can kill them. But think like the Mandalorian, dead or alive. So this thing has prison pods in it, and you can incap them, handcuff them, drag them back to your ship, put them in a pod, take them back to a station, hand them over to security, and get paid, I would assume, more money. It's really cool. Again, something to touch on. I've had guys ask me in chat before, like, well, the Polaris has prison pods, so if you have that, why would you need the Avenger Stalker? The answer is because not everyone pledges ships. Forget pledging for a minute. If you're buying things only in-game, which is very viable, you would not start with a Polaris. It would take you like 2 years to afford a Polaris, playing every day. This thing would take you like a week of gameplay to afford one of these, and you could fly around doing pretty decent bounty hunting. So, something to keep in mind. I think it's a really cool ship. I wouldn't recommend pledging one right now. It'll be at Invictus, but I mean, bounty hunting's not really a thing yet. That kind of bounty hunting. Still a really cool ship. Gladius Valiant. Again, just a reskinned Gladius. I believe it also has a different stock loadout, but the weapon mounts are the same size. So it's the same ship. Light fighter, again, as I mentioned, I'm not really a light fighter guy, but it is, from what I understand and from having flown it, one of the most popular light fighters. In 323, I've fought NPC Gladius, and they are a lot harder to beat now, especially in a big ship. They're fast, they're maneuverable. Hey Soul, what's up, man? It's just a good little military ship. You're gonna find a lot of PvPers flying around the Gladius. Nothing wrong with it, just not my favorite. This is just the Valiant edition of the Gladius. Sorry for clearing my throat here, guys. I'm trying to mute myself in time. The Merlin is a snub. Snub basically means it's just a parasite craft for a larger ship. It doesn't have a quantum drive. Most snubs don't have one. A couple do. We'll get to that. This one comes stock with the constellation Andromeda. So it docks with the constellation and comes as a secondary ship. It's tiny. It's not very useful on its own unless you're going to like duel your buddies. But if you're out, say, flying around in the Andromeda and you find a cool cave mission down below you, it's 100 kilometers away, you don't want to send the mothership down, you can just undock your Merlin, go flying down to the planet, and there you go, secondary ship. It's also a good little combat craft for defending you. It's very hard to hit. It's very fast, maneuverable. Gladius, this is just the non-Valiant edition, the normal one. We already touched on that. The Aurora. I'm going to say a little bit about the Aurora. I'll preface this with I don't fly the Aurora. It's not one of my favorite ships. I don't have one. But it gets a lot of crap for no reason. A lot of guys want the meta ship. So they're saying, oh, the Aurora's crap. It's garbage at PvP or whatever. Like they're comparing it to something like the Redeemer. Like, it's a starter ship. If you played Elite Dangerous, it's the Sidewinder. There's nothing wrong with it though. The exploration one isn't amazing. But if you're a brand new person and you only want to spend $45 on Star Citizen and that's it, the base package comes with the Aurora. I believe you can choose the ES, the MR, and I forget the other one's letters. They're each kind of targeted towards a different demographic. But it's just a little starter ship. Gets you from A to B. It's small. It's maneuverable. You're not going to win any fights in it. But the MR is not actually a bad little fighter if you're fighting another light fighter. So if you have an Aurora or you're thinking about getting the game, I should put a little plug in for a second. If you're watching this after the fact, like on YouTube or whatever, and you're thinking about getting the game, hold off for like a week and a half. There's a free fly event coming up with Invictus, which starts, I think it's next Friday. It's basically an event where you can fly for free for a week and you can rent a bunch of ships for free. If at the end of that week you decide you want to buy the game and you buy an Aurora, there's going to be a code in my bio. You use that code, you get free in-game money and I get rewards. So like for instance, if I refer 5 more people, I get a free ship. So keep in mind if you want to support a little bit, but for now, the Aurora, there's nothing wrong with it. Basically, someone says to me, I'm getting the game. I'll say, great, what do you want to spend? Oh, nothing. I want to spend 45 bucks. Get an Aurora. Great. I want to spend 50 bucks. Get a cutter. I'm willing to spend 100 bucks. Well, go Avenger, or are you willing to spend 110? You can get a Cutless. I think Cutless is actually 120 now, but nothing wrong with it. Hey, Panzer. Redeemer. I freaking love this ship. I used to hate it. I was not a fan of it. A guy in our org is a big fan of this ship. Shout out to Demos, and he kind of turned me on to the ship. It's a gun ship. It is heavy. It is slow. In 323, it is heavier and it is slower, but it also has massive guns on it. Don't think of it as a ship, okay? It's a mobile weapons platform. The pilot's job isn't really to fight. The pilot's job is to maintain a stable platform so that the big-ass gunners can defend it. But this thing can rain down a lot of hurt. Seeing somebody saying, I use the Redeemer for a lot of bunkers. Right now, in the current state of the game, that's really all it's good for. Take your friends and do PvE bounties or beacons, or just use it as a super Pisces and just do bunkers in it. But in the future of the game, it's a military craft that'll be very expensive to run. Ammo will be expensive, fuel will be expensive, crew will be expensive. This is a very purposeful military patrol craft. It's a gunship. So right now, get it for whatever you want. In the future, it's not likely to be the kind of thing you're flying around doing bunkers in. Not judging if you do, but just kind of giving you guys expectations for the future of the game. Gorgeous ship will be for sale at Invictus. I don't recommend pledging it. It's very expensive, but you can rent it for free in-game during Invictus and make that decision for yourself. Lost my spot. The Carrick. Okay, so when I'm done this video and it goes up on YouTube, I will make sure I link my Carrick video that I did. I did like a whole little personal talking about the Carrick. It is the closest thing in this game at the moment to Serenity from Firefly. Okay, it's a big exploration craft. It's ex-military. It's not an ex-hauler, but same thing, really. It's got a lot of cargo space, a lot of crew space. It's got a snub craft. It's a beautiful ship. Again, like the Redeemer, you can fly around right now doing whatever you want in it, but the future of this ship is... It's the mothership. You jump to Pyro, you fly back to Pyro 5, you scan. It tells you there's something in a cave down there. You're probably not going to take the Carrick down. It's slow in atmosphere. It's cumbersome. It takes a long time to get out of. The bridge crew is probably going to stay on the ship and they're going to send the shuttlecraft down. Not saying you can't land it, but it's big and it's slow. It's bigger and, well, sorry, it's not bigger. It's slower in 323. But I love this ship. I own one. It's named Mine's the Wild Endeavor. When crew bedlogging's back, I know a bunch of guys from our group that are going to be living on this ship like full time. This is the pinnacle of let's go out and explore that's currently available in the game. Love it. Great ship. Probably a couple of good screenshots in here. This is just a marketing image. This is the old original design. See how much it changed. But it's got astrometrics. It's got a double level bridge. It's got an armory. It has a full engineering bay. Again, old design. They haven't updated this in a long time, but really cool ship. I like it a lot. I only fly it when I have a full crew online. And this is basically Carrick Expedition, which is just a paint job. Expedition, regular Carrick, which is an expedition craft, regular Carrick. Like I said with the Hornet, they just sell multiple variants as opposed to just selling paints. It's a little bit of a money grab, but I love the game, so I give them a pass on that one. Okay. The Herald. Now, I have only flown the Herald like once. Basically, it's a data ship. It's like a little blockade runner. It's designed to get around real quick and steal data. It's kind of like a little FBI van inside. Let's see if they have an internal view on it. Little captain's chair. There we go. Databanks, little scanning terminal. It's sort of like it gets, now we don't have data gameplay in ships yet. So I'm kind of speculating here. I can't tell you what data is going to be like in ships, but it strikes me as the kind of ship that, kind of like the Terapin, is going to start scanning. This one, it seems more like it's going to be for stealing data, or so at least storing data or taking it from other ships. But it goes in, it scans, it gathers something, some kind of information, and then it just gets the fuck out of there. So extremely fast in a straight line, like Panzer's saying in chat. Cool little ship. I think it's ugly as sin. I mean, it's basically thrusters in a cockpit. Oh, it keeps resetting. Sorry. Like, it's not a good looking ship, but it's fast. It's so freaking fast. It's just a giant engine on the back. And in the future, when data gameplay is a thing, it's sort of like a stepping stone to the MSR. Again, if you're not pledging stuff, if you're buying stuff in game, because somebody might say, well, why would I get a Heral if I can get an MSR? Because in the game, after 1.0, when you're buying stuff with in-game money and trading things up like you would do in any other game, you would afford the Herald first and then work your way up. But again, we don't know what ship data gameplay is going to be like yet. It doesn't exist in the game yet. It's not something I recommend, but it should be available for the free fly at Drake Days at Invictus Launch Week coming up. Mustang. We already talked about the Alpha, so I'll go over these very, very quickly. But you've got the Omega, the Beta, and the Gamma. And as I mentioned with the Alpha, they're starter ships with multiple variants. So you've got racing, you've got exploration, you've got another racing, you have combat, and then the other one was just like a multi-role, like cargo and stuff. Leo, I see you in chat. I don't know why you're frowning, buddy. All right, glossing over those, we get to another one that's just incredibly hyped right now. So I'm going to do a little bit of shared hype, and then I'm going to just kind of ruin everyone's day when it comes to the Javelin. Much like with the Polaris, I see a lot of streamers much bigger, much more professional than me, making all their covers right now, the Polaris and the Javelin, because you guys are all stoked about it. I'm not going to do that. This video is not about only the Javelin. We're just going through every ship and we're hanging out and you guys are asking questions in chat and we're just kind of shooting the shit. But the Javelin is a destroyer. It is something straight out of Star Wars. It is an incredibly sexy ship. Like, just look at this thing. The positives. It's gorgeous. It's big. It's tanky. That's just outlines. Come on, give me a good external picture. I guess the best one's this one. But gorgeous ship. Here's the thing that's going to kind of ruin the day for people. One, when the game is done and it's an in-game buy, this is going to take you like years of gameplay to afford one of these. Right? Like eventually they're going to stop pledge selling ships this big. They've been very clear about that. It's hard to pledge this ship right now anyway. And even if you wanted to, it's $3,000. So let's assume you're buying one in game. This is an end game ship. You need a crew of like 24 just to use it. You can't use the guns. You can't use the torpedoes. You can't do anything solo. This is like a large org's end game goal. Not telling you how to play the game. Just like all the guys you see being stoked. Like, oh, the Javelin's coming. The Javelin's coming. There's a walkthrough it. Be stoked. Go check it out. This is not a ship that you get solo and fly around feeling like a badass. This is a mobile station. So manage expectations. This is not going to be in the game flyable for a long time. I would guess well after 1.0 as like a DLC. But I understand the hype because it's gorgeous. It is. It's an absolutely gorgeous ship. It keeps scrolling up on me. I apologize again. All right, Scorpius Andares and Scorpius. We'll go through these ones quickly. These ones should be at Invictus on RSI Day, which is day 1 for rental, so you can try them out. I feel like it's getting dark enough in here that I need some more lights on. And I feel like maybe a purple light is not the right call. Okay, we got to figure out some lighting here. No. 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 Maybe? Maybe. Should we go green? Let's go green. And we'll dim it down a little bit. There we go. We got some light going. All right. Scorpius and Scorpius Antares, you can try both of them in Invictus. I recommend you try them before you get them because a lot of people kind of fell for marketing hype with these ships. Positives and negatives, like always. They are fucking gorgeous. They're an X-Wing from Star Wars. They're gorgeous. Like, just look at these things. They're gorgeous ships. But a lot of guys... Now, look, if you pledge a ship for its looks because you like flying it, you buy whatever you want. You can get these in-game. They're not that expensive. You don't have to pledge them unless you want to. But you need a co-pilot to make either of them very effective. Half of the firepower on the Scorpius is the turret gunner, which is manned by another player. And the Scorpius Antares has the ability to do an EMP and a quantum field dampener, again, controlled only by the co-pilot. So I highly recommend you try them in game, rent them for free during Invictus, but it's not a solo powerhouse. The wings also break off very easily. It's a vulnerable ship. It's a heavy fighter, but I think it flies more like a medium in my personal opinion. I think it's gorgeous. I own one in game. Like I said, I give my 2 cents on each thing. But again, don't rush anything. Don't fall for, FOMO or whatever, or marketing hype. You can test fly both for free on the first day of Invictus in like a week and a half or a week and 2/3 or whatever it is. So try them out. They're very cool. Don't fall for that stuff. The Liberator. I can't say much about it because it doesn't exist yet. This is one of the first ones we're coming to that's just a concept besides the Javelin. It's a light carrier. It has a flatbed on top. It can carry some fighters. It can carry a medium ship or 2. It has more fuel. It has the ability to repair, and it has a vehicle bay. It's designed for getting things from point A to B to C to D. So these missions don't exist yet, and this ship doesn't exist yet, but the way I envision it is sort of like we used fleet carriers in Elite Dangerous. You find out, let's say we get ground war in the game. I log in, let's say I have one of these. I jump in with a bunch of guys in our voice comms, and I say, what's going on? They're like, oh my god, we're at war, we're on Pyro 5, we're under attack, we got no support. You set up the Liberator with fighters, tanks, troops. You jump it in, it flies down, it lands, and then all these things that didn't have enough fuel to get there come off of it. It doesn't do anything itself. It's just a light carrier. I have no interest in it personally. I can't tell you much about it. There's not a lot of info yet, but that's what this is. The Raylan. I know a lot of people who have this concept pledged. It doesn't exist yet. Again, as I said, it's a concept like the one above it. It's a cargo ship. It's an alien cargo ship. I had no interest in this thing until I tried the Siulin, however you want to pronounce it, the last Gattack ship that came out. Now I kind of get it. This is not something that I would pledge personally, a cargo ship, but I could see myself buying one in game. You know, like you start with a small cargo ship, you work your way up, and eventually you're choosing between a C2 or this. Because that's what it's comparable to. It's like an alien C2. I think it's slightly bigger. It's just a cooler design. I just think it's a really neat looking ship. I'm not usually an alien ship guy, but like, just look at this thing. I think it's really cool looking. This will not be an Invictus. This will be an Alien Week thing. It's a concept only. I highly advise against pledging concepts for ships. You never know when they're going to come out. It could take forever. Just wait. Just wait for this one. But when it comes out, I will definitely be trying it. Look how this thing lands. It's like a crouching insect. I think it's just a really cool idea for a ship. This is a great little concept image just coming out of the atmosphere here. It's got guns, 2 size 4s, missiles, turrets, utility. That's probably a tractor beam for the cargo. Cargo goes on the outside in these pods. It's just a neat, unique looking ship that I think you'll see rarely around the verse when it comes out. So it'll be an interesting thing to see. Rock DS. If you play the game, you know the Rock. If you don't play the game, the Rock is a ground mining vehicle. You put the Rock in another ship, or a ship, you fly it somewhere, you land, and you drive around mining. I think I've already said this a couple times tonight. You'll have people who will ask you, well, if you can get what's the new big mining ship coming called? The Arastra. If you can get an Arastra or a Mole, why get a Rock? The answer again is because in game, you can afford this first. So just forget pledging. The Rock, this is the DS. The regular Rock is just a ground mining vehicle. You land in your little ship, you drive around in this, you make a couple 10, 20, 30 grand a trip, and you start making your fortune with something small like this. The Rock DS is absolutely useless, in my opinion. It's a 2-person mining vehicle, but the driver can't mine. So you would be better off with 2 Rocks. Like, the Rock DS is more expensive and requires 2 people. Just get 2 Rocks. Like, they're not expensive in game. Don't pledge one. There's no point. But don't get the Rock DS. It just doesn't serve a purpose yet. F7C Hornet Mark II. If you guys have been watching my videos lately, I've been flying around in this thing. As I said, I'm not really a medium fighter guy, but it's a fun little ship. It's fast. It's maneuverable. It's got decent firepower. You can put more firepower on it by swapping out some parts. I only got it because I completed the Overdrive Initiative, and I'm waiting for the free upgrade to the FCEN A, which is basically the same thing but upgunned with military parts. I doubt I'll keep it. I'm not a small fighter guy. If it had more fuel, I'd consider it. The F8A has more fuel than the F8C, and I was hoping the F7A would too, but according to data mining, it doesn't. Maybe it will. We don't know, but according to the stats so far, it doesn't. But it's a little fighter. It's a medium. It's got good firepower. It's not very tanky. In 323, I keep dying in the thing. But if you like fighters, check it out. It should be available to try for free at Invictus. It's fairly new, so it might not be. That's why I say should. But they might. They might let you rent it so that you can try it for free for like a day or so and then decide if you want to buy one. Having flown it, I don't recommend buying it. I wait till it's available in game. I don't recommend pledging it, but maybe you love fighters, so it's a good fighter. X1, the touring, the racing, and the combat variants. Steer clear of these for now. There's a bug with them. I don't think it's fixed yet. 323, 322, people have been using them and it causes issues with their account. But essentially, it's a hover bike. It's a really fast hover bike. The hover bike, you have the one with kind of the nice amenities. You have the one that's faster for racing with no gun, and you have the one with more firepower. Some guys love them. Some guys don't. I have tried it once. I did not personally enjoy it, but that's what these are. For those watching who don't play the game or who play very little, ground vehicles did not used to serve any purpose. You get a ground vehicle because you want a ground vehicle. There's no ground war yet. There's no real reason for them. However, that's kind of changing in 323. Bunker turrets are getting stronger. Some of the distribution centers require you to land further away. One of the CIG devs, whose name escapes me in the last video they did, like literally last Friday, was talking about how in the very near future, weather or tree cover or stealth, like wanting to stay quiet, would cause you to want to land further away. Maybe you're in a Carrick. Maybe you're in a Valkyrie. You cannot land as close as you want to because of surface-to-air missiles, or you don't want to be detected, or there's a storm raging. Right now, if you land your ship far away, get out in this ship and drive it, you actually lose your ship marker. You can't find your way back. But they're slowly working on beacons and map markers for your ship. So in the near future, let's say you're in a Carrick, you've got 6 crew, pilot stays on the bridge, 5 people are leaving. Maybe you have a Cyclone and 2 of these in the back of your ship. The Cyclone takes 3 people and they go one direction and they draw the fire of the NPCs or the players. And the 2 X1s go the other way and they sneak around the back because they're a lower signature and nothing locks onto them anymore. That's how I would use them. I do not recommend pledging ground vehicles. They are not expensive in game. But there's a new one coming out, the Pulse with 323. If you were going to get one to try one, maybe try that one. But yeah, get them in game. They seem cool. They look cool. They're not my style. The Santok Yai. Again, alien ship. Everyone pronounces them differently. Someone's going to tell me that's wrong, but I don't know. That's how I say it. I don't personally enjoy it. But again, as I've said 4 times tonight already, I'm not a medium fighter guy. It's alien. It's a cool design. It's got really nice rotating thrusters. It's got decent firepower. The way that this game balances out, so if you guys watched me from Elite, you know that in Elite you could engineer any ship. to be anything you wanted it to be. In this game, ships are more specialized. And what they try to do is not allow anything to become the meta. So there is no best medium ship, or there shouldn't be, because they should all excel in different areas. So whereas the Hornet might have more firepower than the other mediums, the Santok is more maneuverable. And so on and so forth. One would be faster, more maneuverable, more fuel, more firepower. But this one didn't do it for me. I tried it a couple times. It wasn't my style. But it's a cool ship. A lot of guys do love it. Alien will not be at Invictus launch week. Will be at Alien week, which if someone wants to look it up and tell me, I'm pretty sure it's in June. They haven't actually told us yet, but it's usually in June. SRV, also one that will likely not be at Invictus. Not a combat ship, not a military ship. It is an industrial towing ship. I could see them maybe tossing it into Invictus because it's new, but typically not the kind of ship you'd see there. But it's very cool. It's the first ship that tows other ships. So right now, there's not much to do with it. 322 guys were using it to print money by using it in the Hammerhead missions, which are now gone in 323, or at least they pay less. It's more of a search and rescue thing in the future. So there's kind of three reasons for this ship in the future. If you're going to buy one, I'd say in game. One, it's, well, for missions. There's going to be missions for towing stuff, so make some money. Two, search and rescue. Right now, in the current state of alpha, if there's something wrong with someone's ship, they just blow it up. Or they just leave it. They just get their buddy to pick them up, or they just backspace. They just log out. In the future, they've told us flat out, dying will have real consequences. You'll lose perk points or whatever, or you'll be damaged, or your clone won't come out right. Leaving your ship will have consequences because there's a lot of value in it. Reclaim times, insurance fees, that kind of thing. Also, just logging out won't work. At some point in the future, wherever you log out is where you log back in. You log out of your ship, you're not going to reappear at a station. You're going to reappear in your ship that's stranded. So the SRV is the kind of ship that, if I'm in my Corsair full of loot and crew and stuff, I've been exploring for 3 weeks, and we break down. You find somebody in your group or in global or a friendly group, a friendly org, whatever, who has an SRV to come tow you back to safety. It could also be used to make money. This is speculation now, but there has been some rumor of the ability to sell entire ships. So you find a derelict Hammerhead. If you're an engineer, maybe you can get it to work again. You fly it somewhere like Brios and you sell it for scrap. So not like hundreds of millions, but money. You had an SRV, you could just tow it there. So industrial game loop, I think it's really cool looking. I would love to see Argo do a salvage ship in a similar design language, but that's what the SRV is. Hull C, another industrial ship, still one of the newer ships added to the game. It is a massive, heavy cargo ship. It's not particularly useful right now, in my opinion. I'm sure somebody who has the ship is going to say something in chat, but I just don't see the use. If you have one pledged, by the time you have enough credits in-game to afford to fill it with cargo, you can afford to buy the ship. So it seems maybe like a not epic pledge to me. Docking it doesn't work right now. The way the cargo is on that thing, it can't land when it has cargo. So it's just, I'm not an expert on this ship. I've been in it once, but I've seen a lot of talk on it. I've had a lot of conversations about it. It's sort of a black sheep right now. But in the future of Star Citizen, I look forward to seeing these in the shipping lanes. Getting to a jump gate. Picture like Eve. You get to a jump gate, you see combat ships, warships, military ships, you see NPCs, you see players, you see griefers, and you'd see a bunch of these. Big scale org, hauling back and forth. Not my style of ship, but I'm hoping that somebody I know has one. Maybe I fly support. Maybe I crew it for them for a couple days or something. But cool ship. Vulture, one of the ships I recommend to new people who want to spend a little bit more. So we touched on that with the Avenger. I don't recommend pledging anything, really. Buy the game, $45, get an Aurora and you're good. But if someone says, well, I want to spend $75, I want to spend $100, whatever you want to spend, if you're going to buy that one ship, this is one I often recommend. The Vulture can't do combat, but it can do box missions, it can do salvage, it can do ground site missions like bunkers, whatever. It's got decent fuel. You can make it around the whole system to check stuff out. It's a good little ship. It's made by Drake. It's a solo salvage ship. You could see 2 or 3 of them out doing missions together. I often see people asking the same question I touched on before. Why get a Vulture if you can get a Reclaimer? Same answer. If you're not pledging stuff and you're buying stuff in game, you would start with a Vulture and work your way up to a Reclaimer. I like the Vulture a lot. I think it's a good little ship. I don't have one, but I really like it. It's affordable in game. It's affordable to pledge, in my opinion. It's versatile, except for combat. I think it's cool looking. It's got some cool paints for it. It's got like a nice matte black paint that I particularly like. We won't go into too much detail like by clicking into it, but salvage. Again, probably won't be available in Invictus. It's not a military ship. Drake Defense Con also probably won't be there, but you can get it in game for very affordable, and you can always find somebody who's willing to let you see theirs. I mean, if you don't have any friends who play the game, there's a link to our Discord on my bio. Just join our Discord, just go into Star Citizen chat, be like, hey, can I fly someone's Vulture? Can I crew someone's Vulture? Go along, help them move boxes. You'll be golden. The Corsair. God, I'm self-serving because I'm going to click on the Corsair for sure. I did a whole video on the Corsair recently. This is my favorite ship in the game. I told you guys at the beginning of this that I would make it very clear there's no best ship. The Corsair is not the best ship. It is the definition of jack of all trades, master of none. It can just do everything decently. You want to do combat? Sure. In 323, I highly recommend a crew for combat because the NPCs are terrifying now. And the way master modes work is bigger ships are not moving the same way, but they're also tankier. So you crew this thing, it can do combat. It can haul cargo. It can do exploration. If you're into piracy, it can do that. If you're into patrolling for pirates, it can do that. It can't salvage, but you could use a hand salvaging tool to fill it up. It's just a well-rounded ship. I told you guys that the Carrick is the closest thing in role and size to Serenity, but the Corsair is the closest thing in vibe, in my opinion. It's smaller than Serenity. It doesn't look like it. But the vibe of the ship, the kind of style of the rooms and the galley and the way you use it, and I just think it's a great ship. I love flying it. It's one of those ships that I have a name picked out, but I'm not telling anybody because you can't lock the names in yet, and the names are going to be hull limited. But I have a name for mine in my head that I, call it all the time, and I look forward to being able to call it that in the game. And this thing's my home. I live on it. It's just a great ship. It's affordable in game for a big ship. It's not bad. Even in 323, it's not too expensive. It's fairly expensive to pledge. I ended up pledging one because I was in love with it, but I tried it for quite a while before I made that decision. Anybody's welcome to come check out mine if they want to. Hull A, little brother to the Hull C. We talked all about the Hull C. Starter freight. Yeah, it does small amounts of cargo. You're a solo person, you can put boxes on it and do cargo. It's a cool looking ship. I wish that the Freelancer series, which we'll get to, had the same cockpit as this. It's got a nice big bridge view. It's a nice little ship. Cutless Steel. We're not at the other Cutlasses yet. The Cutless Steel is kind of useless at the moment. It's a drop ship that's not as tanky as the Valkyrie. But that's just my personal opinion. It's also cheaper than a Valkyrie by a long shot. So it's a fast, maneuverable dropship. It's got a cool paint or lack of paint. It's just steel. I like it. I like the Cutless Steel. I just have no use for it. So I usually buy it in game. It's not expensive. It's a fun ship if you've got like 10 buddies on and nobody wants to fly their own ship. You put them all in the Cutless Steel. You fly around doing ground missions and stuff, and you jump out like Marines. But it's overkill at the moment. You never need all of these door guns right now in the game. As ground sites get more dangerous, if you're landing in a distribution center and there's 20, 30, 40 enemies, maybe we're starting to get there. But right now, not particularly useful. The Ares. Ares Inferno and Ares Ion. I'm sure somebody watching has a favorite between the two. I prefer the Inferno. A lot of guys prefer the Ion. 323, they've changed completely. These will guaranteed be at Invictus to try and rent for free. I recommend renting both and trying both, even if you've flown them before, because the Inferno now has less ammunition and handles differently. The Ion now has a charge time on the gun. For better or worse, I won't comment on my opinions on them, but I would try them both again. These are, they say heavy fighter, but they're capital hunters. It used to be you could kind of use an Inferno or an Ion to fight other fighters if you were really good. I've killed fighters in PvP in the Inferno before. I like it. It's not really a thing in 323. People are saying they've nerfed them. I don't think they've nerfed them. I think they've balanced them. They made them what they're supposed to be. These ships are designed for hunting capital ships. They're designed for hunting sub-capitals like the Hammerhead and the Carrick and up. And they're very good at that. The Ion will charge and drop shields. Its alpha damage has gone up with the charging. Once the shields are down, the Inferno comes in and sub-targets, takes out the engines, and they're a sitting duck, and then you board them. So very, very cool ships. Very, very niche use. Buyer beware. Try them first. The Spartan, I'll go over very quickly. It's a ground vehicle. It's a troop transport. Doesn't really serve a purpose right now. Only fits in 1 or 2 ships. Basically this one and its brothers and sisters. I think it's very cool looking. I think it's useless. I'm sure it will have a use in the future. Right now, you can probably rent it for free at Invictus. It is a combat ground vehicle, but I don't really buy it in game if you want to try it. The A2 is one of the Hercules. You've probably heard it mentioned in chats, whether you play the game or not. The A2 is a bomber. You'll probably see the joke in global chat often, friendly A2 incoming when Jumptown's going on. Basically, it drops nukes. They're not nuclear, but it drops big bombs. That's what it does. It's got cargo space. It's got room for a crew, but it's a bomber. And right now, there's no bombing missions. I take that back. 323, there are bombing missions because you can destroy the fuel depots. But people typically use this to just grief other people for now. For now. They fly to a place where there's lots of people, they drop a bomb, and they laugh in global chat. In the future, when there's war missions, when there's stuff like that, then I'm sure this will have its heyday. But right now, it's something people fly around into like Ghost Hollow or whatever. They drop a bomb, they giggle about it, and they leave. I've used it 2 or 3 times. It's not my style of ship. But very tanky, very fast for its size, very popular. One of the only 2 ships that can drop bombs and drops the biggest bombs. I believe they're size 10s, whereas the A1 drops size 5s. Somebody can correct me if that's wrong, but I think that's correct. 400i. I don't think we've gone over any Origin yet. Origin is a luxury manufacturer. This ship will probably not be at Invictus. Like I said, it has guns maybe, but it's not really their style of thing. Invictus, the only thing I've ever seen them sell, I think, is the G12 concept, which we'll get to. This is a luxury competitor for the Corsair and the Constellation. It's good for a small crew, 4 or 5 people. It's got okay guns, okay space. It has a bespoke hangar on it for an X1 bike. Let's see if there's a picture of that here. We'll go back. I think I might have seen one at the beginning. So there's the X1. They're not really showing it here, but at the front of the ship here, there's like a second hangar. So there's a cargo bay back here. There's a second hangar, and it kind of comes down. It's just the right size for a small motorbike. So it's the kind of thing where it's luxury. In the future of the game, you would fly this thing to a remote world. Your luxury clientele would get out in the G12 or the Ursa in the back. They would go driving around doing their whatever, and the captain would get out on his motorcycle and go do whatever his own thing was. But you can use it as a multi-role. It's a good ship. I don't have one. I've flown it twice. Not a massive fan of the luxury stuff, but it's just as popular as the Corsair or the Constellation with its own kind of niche following. Constellation Taurus, we looked at the Aquila already. This is the cargo variant, so it's a little bit longer. It carries more cargo. It doesn't have a snubcraft. It has a tractor beam. In the future, I believe it also has a shielded cargo area at the back for smuggling. Doesn't really work yet, I don't think. But same pilot firepower, less missiles than the Andromeda, 1 less turret because it has a tractor beam, more cargo space. It's a great ship. Honestly, I think it's the best value cargo ship in the game. It's not expensive to pledge. It's not expensive to buy in game. It's just an affordable cargo ship for a small group. If you want to talk like non-immersively, it's an affordable way to make money, and you can use it as a multi-role. If you want to talk immersively or roleplay wise, it's the kind of ship that a small company would buy or a wealthy person would buy, and they would use it to start a hauling company. You'd work your way up to bigger ships from there. But it's a great little ship. I like it quite a lot. Nova's a tank. That's all there is to say. It's got a big ass gun. I think it's a size 8. Might be bigger. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it's got a big gun. there's not much use to tanks right now. I'm sure with like ground war and stuff coming in that there will be a use for tanks. Right now, it's something you bring out to show off. Hey, look, I have a tank. Because realistically, you take it to a ground site, it's so slow. Like, you're not killing much with it. Somebody might be dumb enough to come too close with like a hammerhead, and they can't move fast enough, and you snipe them. But it's just a cool looking ground vehicle that will have its heyday in the future. We saw the A2 already. This is the C2 and the M2. I don't understand why they're not clustered together on the website like some of the others. Like the X1s were all together. I wish they were all side by side. The A2 was the bomber. The C2 is the transport. The M2 is the military transport, or let's call it like a super dropship. So the A2 has a similar sized cargo bay, but half of it's full of bombs. The M2 has like marine drop seat rooms and carries the big vehicles. They all carry the big vehicles. That's what it's meant for. The C2 is meant for cargo. I know it shows tanks here, and you can definitely put them in there. It's one of the only ships that can hold those tanks, but it's meant for carrying just a shit ton of cargo. That's what it is. It's just a massive cargo hauler. It's not Hull C sized, but I would say it's probably the most popular cargo ship in the game. In Alpha, you use money you bought on eBay to buy a C2 and you fill it with cargo and you have a good time. In the future, it's more of like a mid-game. You're playing for a few months before you can afford a C2. You would use it to kind of leapfrog your way up to bigger ships. But very good ship. It's sort of like comparative to like the Type 9 in Elite. I know it's a different vibe, but like that's the kind of role of this ship. Two Talons together, Talon and Talon Strike. As I mentioned, I'm not really a light fighter guy, and I'm not really an alien ship guy, but I have flown them both. They qualify as snubs, meaning you can call them at ground sites. Very handy if you get stranded somewhere. You can call it out. It has a quantum drive. It's very popular in PvP. It's fast, it's maneuverable, it punches hard for its size. It's just not my style of ship, but they're really cool looking. They've got a really unique bridge. You kind of get it in the, it's like a digitized cover, so it kind of, you see like the animation of the screen turning on. They're neat little ships. The next time I do one of my ship reviews, I think the next one I'm doing is actually all the Drake ships, and then I'll do the alien ships in one of them, because there's not that many of them. You can cover them in one video. The Freelancer. I'll give this one an extra minute because the Freelancer Miss was my first pledge. Nightshade, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. Freelancer Miss was my first pledge after the Avenger when I started the game. The Freelancer family have not been updated or supported in a while, so they're a little bit antiquated. But every ship's going to get a gold standard pass, so don't let that sway you. It's a competitor for a bunch of ships we haven't actually seen yet tonight. So it competes with the Cutlass, the Spirit, and the Zeus. It's a family of ships. They're what I would call small mediums. So like the Constellation is technically a medium, but it's a large medium. The Freelancer and those are kind of small mediums or large smalls. The sizing makes no sense in Star Citizen. It's not big. You can fly it with one person. It's meant for 2 or 3. This one's a gunship, but the Freelancer is sort of like the Dodge Ram of the Star Citizen universe. The regular Freelancer, which we'll get to, is a pickup truck, really. It's the kind of ship that somebody would save up for half their life. They'd buy one in their 40s with bank loans, and they'd start a small hauling company. That's what it is. The Miss is a converted militia variant. So instead of energy, it comes stock with ballistic. It's got 4 size 3s on turrets, which is pretty good for its weight class. It has good shields, decent hull, less cargo space, a lot of missiles. So many missiles. I forget how many missiles, but just so many missiles. So fun ship. Not as popular as the Cutlass, but I like it. I flew one for a while. I had a good time with it. Back to a concept, the Perseus, which whenever we start seeing teasers for that will likely be just as much buzz as the Polaris was. The Perseus is, if the Polaris is like a super Retaliator, because we haven't got to the Retaliator yet, but it's basically a giant torpedo bomber, then the Perseus is like a super Ion. So these guns here are size 7s. The dual size 7s on the top and the bottom. This thing hits so hard. It's got a great design. It's got a great looking bridge. It's very again, kind of Star Destroyer-esque and be like the Javelin was, but it's a lot smaller. This is like Carrick sized. The Polaris is much bigger than this. So this is the kind of thing that's gonna, like, they show it flying through a hammerhead here. I don't know if it'll be able to do that or not, but it's designed for killing subcapitals and capitals as quickly as possible. It doesn't have the fuel of the Polaris, the amenities, the hospital, the vehicle bay, none of it. It's just big ass guns. It flies around killing stuff. So I'm excited to see it. I don't have one pledged. I'll definitely save for one in game. I think it's a very cool military ship. I think a lot of people do have them pledged. And I think it's one of those ships that in the finished game will be very rare to see. Because even the guys that have it pledged won't be able to afford to run it. It's going to be a very expensive ship to operate. It's a military strike ship. But very, very cool. Great design. Can't wait to see it in game. MSR, I mentioned it when we looked at the Herald. So it is a medium-sized data runner, but it's big enough with enough space inside that it's essentially a multi-role. It's got room for cargo, a ground vehicle, it has crew quarters, it has data banks, it has turrets. It's the fastest ship in its weight class. This is Star Citizen's Millennium Falcon. It's a smuggling ship. Whether you're smuggling data or crates, it literally has a smuggler's hold. It literally has a secret entrance to the smuggler's hold. So, very, very cool ship. Very, very popular ship. Not my favorite. I don't own one, either in-game or pledged. But whenever like a friend picks me up in one, I always enjoy it. It's a cool ship. This actually is a similar size to the Corsair, just a very different role, but it does compete with it. A couple of starters now. Let's just see a bunch of them. Okay. The Nomad, if you guys played Elite, you'll notice that it's basically the Asp Explorer. That's what it's designed to look like. You can tell it's like, it looks like the Asp. It's just a starter ship. It's kind of like a pickup or an El Camino. It's got a flatbed, literally an external flatbed back here. You put crates or boxes or a small ground vehicle, you fly around. A little bit of guns, a little bit of shields, a little bit of cargo. Very simple ship, nothing wrong with it. You don't see a lot of them because it's not flashy, but if you want to play the game immersively and not spend too much money, you could start with a Nomad and do everything in the game. Great little ship. Just don't try to do PvP. The 100 series, there's actually, I think there's one more besides these. You got the 100i, the 125, and the 135. Again, starters by the luxury manufacturer Origin, the same ones who did the 400 that we already looked at. Not much to say about them. Slight differences, you know, one's got a bit more fuel, good intake. One has a bit more firepower. One has a separate cargo bay. They're just little starter ships. They're like the Mustang, but they have an interior. They have a bed. Cool little ships. I almost got one when I started the game. I went Avenger instead, but nothing wrong with them. Not the kind of thing you see more experienced players in much because they are very basic, but they're cool ships. The Rock, when we looked at the Rock DS, I talked about the Rock at length, so you guys know what that is. Single seat mining craft. Great thing to buy in game and start making some money on your own. Very industrial. The Archimedes. We talked a little bit about the Merlin. We went past that. This is just a different version of that. This is just essentially the, well, I won't call it better, the more expensive one. The Merlin comes in the Constellation Andromeda. The Archimedes Emerald, I believe, comes in the Phoenix. But it's just kind of, I think it's got a bit more firepower. It's just a little snubcraft that comes with a bigger ship. Of all the Cutlasses, the first one we get to is the Cutlass Blue. We talked about bounty hunting with the Avenger Stalker. This is just a step up from that. It's a Cutlass. It's got a quantum dampener. It can stop you from jumping out of situations. Forget for a second players who use it for pirating or griefing or whatever. Like in game, it's designed as like a bounty hunter or like a police ship. This is the kind of thing that like Mando would have. It's got prison pods in the back. It can stop you from jumping. It's got decent firepower. It literally has flashing red and blue police lights. So, bounty hunting ship through and through. Great little ship. I've never actually flown the Cutlass Blue, but I've been in many of them. The G12 series. This is a ground vehicle from Origin that's been in concept for a long time. I don't know when it's coming. Some guys seem to think it'll come this year. If it did, I'd be happy, but people say that every year. Just think of it as a competitor for the Ursa, but a different vibe. Luxury, racing, military. I think this one's cool. It's black. It's got missiles. It competes with like the Cyclone, right? But it has an interior. I think it's actually smaller than the Ursa. But picture a Cyclone, but with an interior. So it's luxury, but just like during World War II, the luxury manufacturers make war machines too. So that's what this is. Ground vehicle doesn't exist yet. I do not recommend pledging ground vehicles, and I definitely don't recommend pledging concepts. You have no idea when this is going to come out. But whenever it's in game, I'll get one for sure. I think it's a cool looking little thing. Maybe I'll do a giveaway. Maybe I'll buy one and do a giveaway on stream. The Prowler is... I'm always so conflicted on this ship. It won't be at Invictus. It'll be at Alien Week. It's available to fly in game. It's very expensive, both in game and to pledge. It's an alien dropship. So we saw the Cutless Steel already. This is the alien version of that. It's tanky. It's a decent speed. It's got good firepower. It has really unique drop pods on the side. We can definitely look at these for a second. It's just like the other alien ships. It's got a really cool design, right? Like little shielded pods that guys jump out of. It's got little personnel shields built into the wings. It's got a really unique alien interior. It just feels very aggressive. The commercial for it's very cool. I just don't see a use for it in the game right now. When ground combat becomes different or more fleshed out, I could see it being more useful. I could see myself buying one in game. Maybe not. I prefer the Valkyrie. But it's the kind of ship that if I was stranded somewhere or I was under fire and I saw a friendly Prowler coming in, I would feel relieved. Because it carries a lot of troops and it's got a lot of firepower. So, something to think about. Wow. Okay, I just left the Prowler and it moved me all the way up to the Starfarer and it's searching ships. Let's give it a second to catch up. Should we refresh the page? Let's refresh the page. All right, we just gotta scroll down again. I don't know why every time I back out, it restarts me to the top again, but it only takes a minute or so to catch up, so whatever. Prowler. Cutlass Red. So we saw the Steel, the dropship, the Blue, the Bounty Hunter. The Red is probably the second most useful of the Cutlasses. It is an ambulance. It has med beds. At the moment, ships with med beds are just kind of handy to fly around with your crew. If you run low on food and water, you get an injury, like a tier 3 injury, you just fix it. In the future, we know that medical is going to change. And so just having a med gun won't be enough. If somebody's incapacitated in a bunker, you might not be able to revive them with a med gun. You might need to tractor them to a med bed to stabilize them and then get them back to a station. So that's where things like a medical Ursa that's rumored, a medical ship, the Carrick, whatever, will become more useful. I don't recommend pledging one because right now you don't need it. You go down with a med gun, revive somebody, and you're good to go. But it's a very useful ship for you to fly around in, and I believe in the future medical ships like that will have their heyday. This would be a stepping stone to something like an Apollo, which is we'll get to. But it's an affordable mid-range medical ship made by Drake to make medical ships accessible to everyone. The Mole, another example of a ship that's sold in 3 different styles to make more money. I kind of wish they just sold the Mole and then sold these paints separately, but their business model is to milk us a little bit for fear of missing out. So this is the same ship in 3 different paints. The carbon, of course, looks really cool. You can't get the paint separately. You have to buy the carbon edition of the ship. So do with that what you may. But it's a mining ship. It's a multi-crew mining ship. At the moment, you'll meet guys who use it solo, who fly this ship solo and do sort of, they seat hopping. They jump from seat to seat. But at the moment, it's better with a crew. In 323, it'll be a lot better with a crew. And as mining gets fleshed out, I believe it'll get even more useful. 3 people, 4 people, really useful ship. I'm not a big miner. Especially in Alpha, I find it kind of boring, personally. But in Elite, I mined a lot. I mined once a week, basically, with the crew, because it was the highest possible payout. So I could see myself, I keep saying you don't have to pledge everything, right? You can pledge what you love, but there's hundreds of ships in this game. I will crew somebody else's mining ship. once a week for sure. Somebody's gonna have a spot on their mole or their Arastra or their Orion, and I'll go crew that myself. Cool ship though. I think it's a great design. It's useful. I think it'll be a great money maker in the future. This is not something they'll sell at Invictus. The Kraken. This is one that confuses me a little bit because it's one of the most hyped ships in the game. Everyone's so excited for the Kraken, and I don't personally get it. It's a carrier. This is the Privateer edition. This one also has a market on it, I believe. But the Kraken is essentially just a light carrier. Like, it's got some pads on top for carrying a couple ships around. I think carriers are cool, but I would think the Bengal would be more exciting. It's a bigger carrier. It's got internal bays and stuff. But this one's highly hyped by people. They're really looking forward to it. I think it's got a cool design. I think a lot of pirate groups will use it simply because of the vibe of Drake. But yeah, it's a carrier. It doesn't exist yet. Probably won't exist for quite some time. You can probably check it out on the floor as a hologram at the Drake days of Invictus. Pisces. I mentioned it when I talked about starters. So if you want to start the game and you want something that's kind of quick, maneuverable, and don't care about a bed, Pisces is a great little ship. You can get it separately, or you can get it with the Carrick. The regular one comes with the regular Carrick, and the Expedition comes with the Expedition Carrick. Brand, I'm a Pisces. I can't tell if you're saying you got a Pisces, or if you're just making this weird. Knowing you, you're probably making it weird, buddy. Actually, if you're talking about being a Pisces, are you still a Pisces? Because the internet's been blowing up from people talking about how they changed the star signs. The science of star signs changed. NASA figured out that they're missing something. Yeah, they're all wrong. Of course, we all know they're all BS, but like they actually changed them all. Like everybody's star signs changed because it was based on a 12-month calendar. It should be a 13 for that particular calendar. Look it up. NASA changed the star signs. I was a Gemini, now I'm a Taurus. I don't know what that means, but yeah, it changed. I can feel Bryn just like panic looking this up right now. Okay, moving on. Pisces, great little ship. It lives in the Carrick, or you can get it on its own. Good little ship. This is the Cutless Black. This is just a Best in Show edition. It's the Cutless Black with a paint. The regular one is black. Multi-role. I would say the Cutless Black is probably the most popular multi-role ship in the game. It's not my favorite. It's not the best. It's the most popular. It's maneuverable, decently quick, holds a couple friends. It's got some room for cargo. It's got some room for a vehicle. It's affordable, both pledge and in-game. It's just a very accessible ship. People love it. I'm not actually a big Cutless fan, but I get why it's popular. Also, when you look at it from the rear, it gives you very, very strong... What was Mando's ship called? Mandalorian? The Razor Crest? It looks like that. It has that vibe of the same kind of ship that he flew. Best in Show is just a custom paint that comes out when it wins the Best in Show at IAE. So ships do voting each year. You vote on your favorite ships, and the winner gets a Best in Show edition. And if you own the ship, you get the Best in Show paint for it. So kind of cool, little competition. Caterpillar, same manufacturer. I love the Caterpillar. I don't own one, but I think it's a great ship. It kind of competes with the C2 that we looked at already. It's just a more affordable, that's Drake's whole thing. They make ships that are accessible to everyone. A lot of people in the game call them like the pirate manufacturer. They're not. They don't make ships for pirates. They make ships that are affordable and accessible to everyone, but in lore, they refuse to do background checks and credit checks. Because they have this whole like America, oorah, power to the people kind of thing. And by extension, criminals buy their stuff. So, they're cool though. It's got a very interesting vibe. The entire manufacturer gives the vibe of Firefly and Serenity and Expanse and living on your ship and getting by the seat of your pants kind of lifestyle. And I like their vibe a lot. If you ever get a chance to look at one inside, go for it. Should be on the showroom floor during the Drake event. And if not, it will be at IAE. I get lost in the ship all the time. Hammerhead. Hammerhead is, they're saying a heavy gunship here. I'd call it more of a Corvette, but it's a lot smaller than the Polaris. It needs a crew of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to man the guns. The pilot controls the missiles. It's not particularly soloable. It's something I'd recommend saving for in game, not buying with pledge money, but it is a great combat ship, and there's not much better at taking out fighters. It's an anti-fighter gunship. You park this thing in a war zone. These guns on these pods here, each one is a size 4. So it's got 4 size 4s on each one of these. This thing shreds everything smaller than it very, very easily. It's also incredibly tanky. It's very hard for small ships to kill it. But that's not to say it's the be-all and end-all of combat, because it's slow, it's not maneuverable, you need a lot of crew. Something big comes along, like a Retaliator, or an Ion, or an Inferno, something designed for killing big ships, and the Hammerhead's fucked. So, ballistic build Hammerhead terrifying. Yeah. Panzer and myself and someone else were flying a Redeemer feeling like badasses one night. We saw a wanted Hammerhead, approached it feeling like we had nothing to worry about, and didn't scan it properly. Didn't realize it was running a full ballistic build. We died so fast. Nothing we could do. Literally nothing we could do. And while we were spinning out of control, somebody else missiled us and blew us out of the sky. So, very scary ship if you don't know what you're doing. Or if you're not paying attention. The Reclaimer. So again, these are the best in show editions, but I'm just talking about the regular ship. We'll gloss over the regular when we get to it, because it's just a paint on the regular ship. The Reclaimer at the moment is the biggest salvage ship in the game. I love it. I have one. I think it's great. There are guys out there who will tell you you can solo it. I just tell them to shut up. You can technically in 322, you can fly the ship as a pilot, get out of the seat, get in the co-pilot seat, strip the ship, get out of your seat, go to the back, move the boxes. You're asking to get pirated. You're asking to get blown up. It takes 3 times as long. Do what you like. I'm not actually telling those guys to shut up. It's designed for a crew of 8. It's designed, once it's done, once it has more fuel and its drones work and the back door opens and all the things that aren't done on the ship right now, it's a capital class or just under capital class salvage vessel. It's really cool. It's got very strong alien vibes. Mine's called the Pale Moonlight right now, but I'm seriously considering renaming it something out of sci-fi that I'm not going to disclose until I get the name in there. But I love it. I think it's a great ship. It's a lot of fun. It can make you a lot of money. 890 Jump, one of the most useless and also the most expensive ships in the game. It's a capital ship. It's luxury. There's currently no luxury missions. There's currently only 1 star system. There's currently no need for this ship. If you have unlimited money in game, try one out. Rent it for free at IAE. But the guys who pledged one, why? Like, I guess it's just flexing, but it's a yacht. It's a luxury space super yacht. Very cool. I recommend not buying one, but there are missions that lead you to board one and clear it of hostiles. Very fun mission. I recommend if you see that to take it. Rob, I can't wait for the Galaxy. Yeah, Galaxy's cool. We'll get to that one in a minute. I haven't gotten to that yet, actually. The Mantis, very basic little military ship. This will probably be at ILW for sale. I don't recommend pledging one, but basically it's an interdictor. Very small firepower, not very good shields or hull. It's designed to be part of a fleet. It creates a quantum interdiction bubble. It pulls things out of quantum, and then other ships do stuff. If you're pirates, you use it to bring ships in to pirate them. If you're police, you use it to catch bad guys. But it's one of the few ships that can quantum interdict at the moment. It's got a very Star Trek vibe with the rear nacelles. That's all I can really say about it. Very straightforward ship. 2 of the Vanguards are together here. They got to reorganize this. So I should preface this for the new guys, because if you're watching this, especially if you're watching this on YouTube after, you might be new to the game. And the whole point of this video is to go through every ship in the game and give you the basics on it before Invictus. If you go to the website, most of the information here is wrong. It's outdated. So there's marketing info that's wrong. There's ship stats that are wrong. They're not organized together. Look at the pretty pictures. Don't judge the content. If you want accurate content on the ship stats, go to Urkel. I'll link it after the fact, but Urkel, ERKUL.games, gives you up-to-date real data mined information on the ships and their stats. The Vanguard family. Harbinger, Sentinel. There's 2 more we'll get to, the Warden and the Hoplite. The Harbinger is the slowest, the heaviest, and fires torpedoes. Most armor. The Vanguard Sentinel is, I think it's the second fastest and lightest. I believe the Hoplite's actually a little bit lighter. But it has, eventually it's going to have E-War. Right now it basically, it has an EMP, which is overpowered. And it has distortion weapons stock. In the future, it's going to have something called E-War. We have no idea how that's going to work. But basically, this is the Brawler, the Harbinger. The Sentinel is the Thinker. It sits further out. It's going to hack things, probably. It's going to shut things down. It's the smart fighter. They would go together. Great ship. I don't love flying them personally, but there's no reason. It's a great ship. It's just not my personal style. It has an interior. It has beds. It has a lot of fuel. If you're looking at a combat career, it's a great ship. I don't usually recommend pledging ships, but if you were like, I want to spend money and I want to pledge a fighter, it's more affordable than some of the bigger ones. It has an interior. It's versatile. You can do box missions and stuff too. If you're going to get a fighter pledged, which I don't recommend, but if you're going to, go with one with an interior, and this is, at the moment, one of your only options. Harbinger is the A10 for Star Citizen. Yes, it is. Banu Defender. This, again, will not be at Invictus, but it will be at Alien Week. It's a light fighter. It's incredibly fast. I'm not an alien ship guy, and I'm not a light fighter guy. I've said that 5 times since we've gone over 5 fighters here, but it is incredibly fast. It's so much fun to fly this thing. It has 4 size 3s, decent firepower. It's just not very tanky. So you need to run away a lot, especially in 323 with master modes, but it can run. You switch to nav mode in 323 and you throttle up, you are gone. You're from New Babbage to Tressler in like 70 seconds. Like, it's just such a fast ship. It has an interior, it has beds, it has 2 seats, and it has a unique style where if the pilot on the left gets out of his seat to go do something, the pilot on the right can take over. So in the future, co-pilots will be able to do that in any ship, right? The Corsair, the co-pilot will be able to take control. We know this will come eventually. This is one of the few ships that you can actually do it. You don't pass control, you just kind of take control. But it's cool that you can do that. Pirate Gladius, we already reviewed the Gladius. This is just a different variant. It's another example of them releasing a special skin, but not as a paint. You have to like get the separate ship. If you have a Gladius, whether it's in-game or pledged, don't get a Pirate Gladius too. There's no difference, and I think it actually costs a bit more on the pledge store too. It comes with different stock guns, but it's the same size weapon mounts. I love UCIG, but it's a ripoff that they do this. So Pirate Gladius, we know about the Gladius now. The Nautilus is one of the ones we're going to click on. This is a concept. I've been explaining to you guys, especially if you're new, what a concept means. So it doesn't exist yet. You're buying it for a bit cheaper and expecting it's going to come out. I don't recommend buying concepts, personally. This is a mine layer. We know nothing about this, really. We don't have any information. It's a future thing that just doesn't exist in the game yet. There isn't even really any pictures here to look at. But it's big. It carries mines. Now, in the current state of the game, mines don't mean anything. What would you be mining, right? Like in Stanton, it doesn't make sense unless you're just harassing people. But in the future, assuming we're going to control systems or areas or resources or jump gates or whatever, this would be kind of like a space superiority vessel that could lay mines and create obstacles for your enemies. Need you guys to ask more questions. I keep not drinking water because I'm the only one talking here. There we go. Nautilus. I think it's cool. Not something I would pledge. I don't recommend pledging concepts, like I said, but it's something I could see myself buying in-game for sure. I think it'd be a very cool ship to have. Scroll back down again. Soul. Drink more water. All right, thanks, buddy. A lot of ships in this game that look cool but lack uses. Yep, true. Very true. But the uses are coming. And for those of you watching this after the fact who don't play this game and have questions about it, it's very... how do I explain? It's moving fast. The game is progressing way quicker than it ever has before. because Squadron 42 is now kind of feature complete and all those teams have moved over. And so all of a sudden we're getting gold standard retaliator, modularity, new EVA, new map. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying these content is 323 is a little rough right now, but it's happening very quickly. They've been telling us since 2018 every year, Pyro's coming this year, Pyro's coming this year, no, it's not. They've been saying this for so long. This is the first year that I believe them. I've seen Pyro in the tech preview, many of us have. I've tested the replication layer. We're getting there, guys. Like, this is no longer like the joke of like, it's going to take 20 more years. No. This is going to hit live way faster than people think. And I say this as somebody who's been here for a while. It feels real now. This is happening. So these ships will get their purposes. Someone redeemed some bits there. I didn't see what it was. Somebody tell me what I have to do. Do I have to drink water? Pet my cat? Tell me it wasn't push-ups. It's late. Come on. I'll keep going until someone tells me. This is a different version of the Nautilus. Nautilus Solstice. We've talked about paints, right? It's just a different paint for the Nautilus. The Ballista, we've been talking about ground vehicles. Again, very cool ground vehicle. Kind of only fits in certain ships like the Hercules. Doesn't really serve a purpose yet. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool that these exist. I hope we get ground combat, ground war zones, ground bases. We got to hold off and defend. Like, I'm sure these will get their purpose. The last Inside Star Citizen, I mentioned this before. One of the devs, I honestly forget his name. I feel bad. He was talking about the reasons for ground vehicles and how hostile terrain will make that something you have to deal with. You might need to land your ship really far away and then drive through hostile terrain to get to your target. That's where something like the Ballista would come in. I know it's going to slow things down. I know it won't be land your ship at the bunker, get out, kill stuff, get back out. But I kind of look forward to the realism of landing my ship 10 kilometers away, leaving crew or a marker on it, and then commuting in. Archimedes, we talked about the other two snubs for the Constellation lineup. This is just another one. Just another snub. Lives in the Constellation line. I forget which one the Archimedes comes with. It might be the Exploration variant, the Aquila. Someone's going to correct me, but I think the Archimedes might be the Aquila. The Ballista, basically the same as this one here, just different paints, okay? Different variations. We can just skip past that. The Ranger. Let's just nerd out over the Ranger together for a second. So the Ranger doesn't exist yet. It's a concept. It would be the first wheeled motorcycle in the game, and the delay, from my understanding, is that they have to work out wheeled ground vehicle physics for only 2 wheels. In Star Citizen, there's nothing magical. You don't open a door and it just kind of disappears. The door physically opens. So the motorcycle has to actually balance, and they haven't coded that yet. But this is the one ground vehicle that I could see myself actually buying with real money, because it's going to fit everything. Like my Carrick, it comes with an Ursa. I park it in the front right now. Eventually, it's going to have a vehicle bay module. I'll park the Ursa under it. Put a couple of these Rangers in the front, especially the one with the guns on it, the TR. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I think they're going to sell so many of these. Because what's this? It's a ground vehicle. What's it going to cost? $50? They get 500,000 people to buy one. Like, this is going to make them decent money. And I will be one of those. I can see myself buying one of these things for sure. Motorcycle, first one, does not exist yet. I do not own a concept. I'm not big on concepts, but I think it's really cool. It's Tumbril. This will be sold at Invictus if you're really stoked on buying a concept on something, but like, it's going to go up by like $5 when it comes out. I would just wait. The only caveat here is that some people think the Ranger might come out this year. I don't agree. There's been no rumors. But they got a lot of devs moving over. Maybe they're going to surprise us. Maybe they're going to just drop the Ranger. And if they do, I'll get one. We'll do a video. We'll drive around. I can't wait to have a little motorcycle at some point. F7C Hornet. We already looked at the Hornet Mark 1. This is just another example like the Wildfire. This is the Heartseeker. The Valentine's Edition. It's a little rare. It's the same ship with a different paint job. So if you like rare collectible paints, be on the lookout for one. I don't recommend pledging a medium fighter, but there you go. It's a cool looking ship for sure. We talked about the Hornet already, so let's just move on. Again, something you'll find at Invictus, but probably not the Heartseeker. you'll just find the Hornet Mark 1 and Mark 2. The Reliant, you got the Mako, the Sen, and the Tana. It looks like the core is further down, which makes no sense because the core is the stock one. All right, Panzer, thanks for tuning in, buddy. So the Reliant has 4 variants. It is a starter ship. I think it actually qualifies as a premium starter. The Mako is for reporting, which doesn't exist yet. Basically, it has like a scanner and camera suite on it. I don't really know what they plan to do with that. I don't know who's going to do reporting in the game, but we'll see how that fleshes out. The Sen Science, let's call that exploration. Better scanner suite, better range. The Tana is the combat variant. It's the only one that I've used. It has a lot of missiles for its size and decent firepower, but it's also very fragile. So this is just MISC's entry, MISC the manufacturer, their entry into the fighter market or the multi-role starter market. The Tana and the Core, which we'll find further down, are the only 2 I'd recommend, and I recommend them in-game, not pledged. They have a cool animation where they rotate. If you guys watched the Ahsoka TV show, her ship did exactly what these do. It starts out flat, and you take off, and it rotates. It's a very cool animation with a cool bridge. That's the only thing about this ship that is great to me. But the Tana, like I said, it has a lot of missiles for its size, so it's worth checking out. Rent one for free in-game. Ursa Fortuna, this is just the Ursa with a paint job. So the Ursa is a ground vehicle. It comes with the Carrick. You can also buy it separately. It has a small turret on top. It's got 4 seats, I think, in the back for crew. It's basically an exploration ground vehicle. Lightly armored, lightly armed. It's designed for exploration, leaving the Carrick in hostile terrain. The Arrow, you'll see a lot of PvPers talking about the Arrow when they talk about the Gladius. You'll see guys who argue which is better. Gladius Arrow, Gladius Arrow. I said it before, I don't believe there is a better. I think it's personal preference. Maneuverability versus armor, firepower versus missiles. It's a good little combat ship. It's not particularly tanky. It can be popped pretty easily. But I've seen guys with an Arrow take out something twice their size if they know what they're doing. I haven't seen it in master modes. We're all relearning the flight model in 3.23. But this will be something you can test fly at Invictus. It'll be available on Anvil Day. It's a good little ship. I recommend renting it. I mean, I'm making this video mostly for newer guys, right? So this is one of the ships that's fairly affordable in-game, fairly affordable to pledge, and available to rent for free at Invictus. Good little fighter. 2 more freelancers. We looked at the Miss. I talked about it at length, so I'll just very briefly say the Miss was the combat militia variant. The Freelancer is the expedition variant, more fuel and scanning. Freelancer Max is the freight variant. It's larger, has more cargo space. And there's the standard version, which we'll get to. But 4 variants, competes with the Cutless, the Spirit, the Zeus as a medium multi-role, multi-variant. It's not a starter ship, but it's sort of like a step up. For those of you who watch me with Elite Dangerous, this is sort of like, you know how you would start in the Sidewinder, which is like the Aurora, you'd work your way up to a Cobra, which is like the Avenger, and then you'd end up in, say, a Python or a Crate. That's the Freelancer versus the Cutless. It's that next step up. You could pledge it if you want to, but if we're talking in-game, this is the next step up. Of the Freelancers, I recommend the Miss or the Max. There's nothing wrong with the other ones, but like the DUR, you don't need the extra fuel yet. The regular, a little claustrophobic. The Miss has a lot of missiles and firepower for its size. It's a decent ship. I flew one for a while. And the Max is just, it's bigger, it's wider, holds more vehicles, holds more stuff. Not that much less. They don't maneuver at all anyway, so it feels like a nice big work truck, basically. Again, I wish these were together because there's 2 600Is. So the 600i Touring and Expedition are 2 large ships by Origin. We looked at the 400i already, which was a medium. I think they're gorgeous. I think if Apple made a ship, that's what it would look like. I don't own one, but it's a great ship. I'm not going to bother clicking through and showing you the whole thing because they're reworking the entire ship. We don't know when. It's in the works. It's the gold standard that I mentioned for like the Retaliator and the other ships. Like this is in the works for this ship. One is for luxury, like the 890 Jump, but more affordable. So you would use it as a stepping stone as you play the game. The Expedition is a great all-rounder. We'll get to that one whenever we come across it. But yeah, it competes with the Carrick. And it will do that more so once it gets its medical facility and its armory and it becomes a true exploration craft. But I think it's a great ship. I love being on them. I don't own one. I don't fly one. I know people in our org who have one. Whenever I log in, I don't want to fly my own ship, or I want to record, or I want to do ground stuff, and someone flies that, I'm always happy to crew it. The Hawk. This is another bounty hunting ship. So we saw the Avenger Stalker, small interior with prison pods, 6 of them. We saw the Cutless Blue, also prison pods, interdiction. This is the small single-seater of the same thing. So it's the same kind of Mandalorian family of ships, but it's only a single-seater. The way that it arrests people is it actually has a little pod in the back. We'll click through on this one. We'll see if we can kind of see it in the images. So this right here actually houses a prison pod. So you shut down a ship with an EMP. You incapacitate their engines. You board the ship. Again, this is all future crafting because you can't do most of this yet, but that's what it's designed for. You board them, you handcuff them, you drag them back to your ship, you shove them in this pod, and you fly them back to prison. You can also just kill them, but eventually arresting them will kind of pay more. But it's a very cool little ship. There, guy being arrested in the back. And this badass over here with this giant revolver as he goes to get back in. It's a cool ship. As we're scrolling here, because we got to scroll back from the top, I'll point out, I've said this in many videos I've done before. There are going to be video game metas. If you just want to play a game and just shoot shit, there's always going to be ships that are better for that. But if you like to watch, read, play immersive sci-fi, if you watched Star Wars growing up and you wanted to live in Star Wars, if you watched The Expanse or read the books or whatever, and you're like, that's the world I want to live in, then that's where some of these ships are going. Is the Hawk the most efficient ship for killing bounties? No, of course not. It's a light fighter. But if you want to actually be the guy who flies in, shuts them down, boards them, arrests them, flies them back, there's not a lot of ships that do that. And it gives you a real Star Wars vibe. It gives you a bounty hunter kind of just, I don't know. I like the vibe. I don't fly one. I think it's really cool though. More constellations. We looked already at the Aquila, the Emerald, and the Taurus. The Emerald is just a special edition of the Phoenix. Both of these are the luxury variant. So more expensive. They have 2 decks as opposed to the one inside. So you got like a little upper kind of luxury cabin. That's all I can really say about it. Luxury travel, whatever you want to call it, sightseeing doesn't exist yet. So I suspect that a lot of people own this purely as a flex because it's the most expensive one. The Emerald's very rare. I don't think you can even get the Phoenix in game. Like, I think it has to be pledge only. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen one on the stores in the game. It's the 890 jump of the constellations. It's superfluous. I don't recommend buying one. But it's beautiful. If you have one, it's a beautiful ship. I just don't see the purpose. The Cyclone family, this is my preferred ground vehicle. It's sort of like the Warthog from Halo. The Phoenix is in-game. Maybe it's the Emerald I'm thinking of. It's not in-game then. So scratch that. The Phoenix is available in-game, but I think that the Emerald Phoenix is not, and that's what makes it rare. But yeah, luxury. Anyway, Cyclone. It's a Jeep. It's got 4 variants. Combat with a minigun, racing, recon, AA. Actually, no, there's another one too, because there's the one that has the missiles on top. There's a lot of variants here, because you got the TR, I'm talking about the MT has the missiles, the RC for racing, the RN for recon, the AA has the missiles on top, and then you've got the regular Cyclone, and then you've got the the MT. So we'll get to the other two whenever we come across them. There's a lot of them. I have this one, the TR. I got a free STV when somebody used my referral code, and I spent the $10 to upgrade it to the TR. This thing lives in the back of my Corsair, and I love it. 3 crew. Once there's the Ranger, put a motorcycle beside it, and you're set for your whole crew to get around. Hammerhead, we talked about when we crossed the Best in Show. The Valkyrie. I think the Valkyrie is one of the sexiest ships in the game. I just love it. It's not the most useful at the moment because drop ships they haven't had their heyday yet. You don't need drop ships right now because everyone just wants to fly their own ship. Once there's heavy ground missions, I'm sure it'll have its use. You put a couple ground vehicles in the back. It's got big sliding doors like the Cutlass. It's got miniguns on the door like the Cutless Steel. The thrusters are VTOL. They rotate. They look really good. It's heavily armored, heavily shielded, and it's covered in turrets. I really like the Valkyrie. I used to fly one around as a multi-role. A little bit of cargo, a little bit of crew space. It's just wasted at the moment. But I really like it. It'll be available to try at Invictus, not the Liberator edition. That's a special edition paint, but the regular Valkyrie with other paints you could test at Invictus. Free fly it. I don't recommend pledging one. It's way too expensive for what it is at the moment, but you can always buy one in game. Kraken. This is the regular Kraken. We talked about it when we looked at the Privateer. One of the more anticipated carriers. Doesn't do much for me, but I think it's cool. I think it's exciting when it comes. It'll be very, very big and a cool ship that you'll see kind of flying the shipping lanes in deep space. Another Mustang. I believe this was a limited paint, the Vindicator, but we already looked at the Mustang Alpha, so we know about this one. The Apollo, another ship that people think might come this year at Invictus. I don't think that it will. I think we would have heard rumors by now, but it's a very highly anticipated ship. Both are medical. One is faster and lighter, the Triage. One is slower and more heavily armored with more firepower. They're both military medical ships. They have a very Star Trek vibe with the nacelles and the bridge. I will buy one in game. That's not a pledge for me, but it's not much bigger than a Cutlass from what I've seen. It has dedicated medical beds. I believe they're planning to make them modular so you can choose which medical beds you have. But as a dedicated medical ship, it would have higher end beds than a regular ship. So you could treat more medical conditions or help people more. I just think it's great looking. I think you're going to see a lot of these out and about. I think you're going to see a lot of people who want to use them. So if you're in a Corsair doing missions and you get downed, you have no friends on, you put in a medical beacon, I think you're going to see a lot of Apollos out there doing that. Medical groups, that kind of thing. So I look forward to seeing this one in the verse. Again, probably available to buy during Invictus as a concept. I don't think it'll be available as like a rental or anything yet. Vanduul Blade, light fighter, not much to say. We've talked about alien fighters. The alien fighters are fast, maneuverable, and they're upgunned. They have quite a bit of firepower. They're very popular. I don't like them, but I can't dispute that they are very effective little killing machines. Some people love flying them. I don't like the HUD on them, so I kind of avoid them for that reason. It's like a blood red HUD, and it's kind of hard to determine markers and stuff around you. It throws me off. But they're very cool little ships. They look cool. It's kind of a modified alien craft. We'll see more of these when the Vanduul are in the game as enemies. The Eclipse, somebody mentioned this one earlier, but touching on it again, it's a stealth bomber. It's got 3 size 9 torpedoes, I believe. It's designed to get in, drop its payload, and get out. I don't use it because I find it tedious dropping missiles and flying back to the station to reload. I like to stay out. But you log in at a city and you find out your buddies are under attack and you want to take a ship to go help them by killing something big, the Eclipse is second to none. And I say that because even though the Retaliator has more missiles, the Eclipse is smaller, faster, and once stealth is a real thing, very hard to detect. God, there's a lot of ships in this game. Okay. 600i Explorer. Very briefly, I touched on this when we crossed the Touring. This is getting a rework up to gold standard sometime soon, apparently. Soon, TM. But it's a Carrick competitor. It's a large Explorer. It's got great amenities. It's more geared towards luxury. It's going to be getting a larger vehicle bay. It's going to be getting an armory. It's going to be getting a medical bay. I think it's a great looking ship. Unlike the Carrick, it has pilot-controlled weaponry, but the Carrick has more armor, better scanners, so they're kind of two sides of the same coin. You just pick one. I chose the Carrick. Very expensive ship, in-game and pledge. Might be an Invictus. I forget if they include the 600i Explorer. Not one I recommend for new people. The Razors, there's a couple of them. Two here, the EX for stealth and the LX for luxury. They're cheap little snubs. They have a quantum drive, but a very small one. They don't get very many places. They do better stored inside another ship. But they're fast. They are incredibly fast. The racing one even more so. The LX is actually harder to lock onto than the EX. It has better stealth capability for some reason at the moment. They're designed for getting in and out quickly, but what you'll see is that combat pilots will use them sometimes to harass people. Because they'll just come buzzing in, hit you, and then boost out again, and you can't lock them. By the time they're close enough that you can lock onto something that small, they're already passing you. So they're very annoying. Now, this is no longer a thing in Master Modes. Master Modes was literally put in to like stop people from playing that way, essentially. You can't really joust like that anymore, so you have to like, you could stay far out where you can't be detected, but then you also don't have your weapons on. You boost in, you throttle down, you power up your weapons, and you shoot. It still has an advantage because you don't know what's coming until it's already there, but it will be harder for this thing to kind of just kite around you. Very cool little ships though. I recommend at IAE, if any of them are there, from Mirai, which is also MISC as the parent company, to try them. They're very, they're a dream to fly. They just don't get around very far. Very little amount of fuel. Reclaimer we talked about when we looked at best in show. Capital size salvage ship. It's great. I love it. The Glaive. This is the size up. So drink some water. Thanks, buddy. People watching this on YouTube after be like, "What are you talking about?" Because I'm talking about like the Twitch notifications. So the Glaive is up from the Blade. The Blade was a light Vandal human fighter. This is a medium Vandal human fighter. A lot of firepower, better armor, better shields. I hate fighting these things when I'm in a big ship. You fight two Glaives and a Redeemer and you actually have a hard time. It's a cool ship. Again, I'm not really a fighter guy. I like big ships. But it's a very cool ship. If you want to see one, you can rent it during Alien Week, like I mentioned a few times. Or if you want to fight one, you can go into Arena Commander into Vandal Swarm. And it's all blades, glaives, and scythes, which we'll see a scythe shortly. Alien fighter, different vibe. Competes with the other medium fighters by having more firepower. But it also has they're glass cannons. Like, if I'm alone in a Cutlass, I could take out 3 glaives in a row because it's so fragile. But if they were good pilots and they swarmed me, they would kill me because they have a lot more firepower. So that's the trade-off. Now the Razor, we talked about them. This is the racing one. So less firepower, less shields, less armor, faster. The Nox, this is a special edition of it. The paint, the coup, but it's just a Nox. There's more hover bikes in this game than there needs to be. It's a fast little alien hybrid hover bike. It looks cool. It's fast as hell. It's not particularly useful, to be honest. But you can check it out during Alien Week. You could see one. Someone in the comments is going to argue and be like, it's great. Ground vehicles are amazing. Like, if you have fun with them, use them. I'm just talking to newer people who are looking at buying stuff during Invictus and Alien Week and stuff. You don't need to buy a ground vehicle. You can buy them in game for so cheap. Another Cyclone. This was the Exploration that I mentioned. We already talked about the Cyclone. Again, you could probably rent them all and try them all for free at Invictus coming up in like a week and a bit. They'll be on Tumbril Day, which might be day 1, but they'll all be on the floor to check them out. Another concept. Let's look at this one for a second. So the Vulcan is a repair and refuel platform. That's all we know about it. It doesn't exist yet. It's a concept. I don't want to click on it because it keeps scrolling back up when I do that, but you can see why that would be beneficial to a group or a small crew that wants to make some money doing something helpful in the verse. It has these little drones that come off. You kind of see the animation here. So they can do refuel. I believe you have to land to repair. I could be wrong about that. I don't know a whole lot about the Vulcan. I'll learn more about it when it becomes available, right? Or they talk more about it. It's been in concept for a very long time. But it's a cool looking support craft. So in an org operation, you're heading out to war, Polaris, Perseus, maybe you send a Vulcan. You kind of keep it out at a distance and it kind of comes in to help out. Or you just fly around being the good guy. Well, the good guy who charges, but people need help with their ships. Their quantum drive breaks down. What are they going to do? Stranded in the middle of nowhere. The game's out of alpha. Backspacing loses your ship. Logging out puts you back in the same spot. How do you fix your ship? You call a Vulcan. Prospector. We looked at the Mole already. This is a mining ship. This is the single player, the solo mining ship. It's very chill. You go out, you find rocks, you scan, you mine. You fill these saddlebags with minables, you take them to a station, you refine them, you make some money. It's a great game loop. I'm not really much into mining, but all these games have to have it. I actually really look forward to it being more of a viable thing because as there's more players and NPCs out just mining, it adds life to the verse. You're flying through an asteroid belt at high speed in combat and you literally pass a player or an NPC just mining in a prospector. It gives the universe some depth. It's not just players shooting in fighters. There's also industrial people out there. There could also be a small operation. 4 of them living off of a carrier. They find something, they mine it. Then a Cutlass comes off. They load the saddlebags onto the Cutlass. He gives them new ones and he goes and refines everything. So there'll be small operations like that as a group is maybe saving up for a bigger mining ship. You run into the same guys 2 years later, they might be in an Orion. 20 guys mining together because they've created a company. That's the Star Citizen kind of spirit. Dragonfly Black, Dragonfly Yellow Jacket, same thing, different paint. My preferred hover bike, made by Drake. I like it because it has 2 seats. It still has shields at point of video being made. Some of the ground vehicles have other shields taken away, but the Dragonfly is bigger. Somebody might correct me on the video, but the last time I used it, it still had shields. We've already talked about hover bikes. It hovers. It has guns. 2 people can sit on it. It's a cool little vehicle. I have a cool paint for mine from CitizenCon last year, which is kind of why I like using it. That's all there is to it. The Nox again, we already talked about it. There was the Nox, and the one up there was just like a special version of it. It's an alien-human hybrid racing bike. Reminds me a lot of Star Wars pod racing. Very straightforward. The Ursa, we already looked at when we saw the Ursa Fortuna. That was just a paint job on this same exploration ground vehicle. The Saber. So this is a special edition, the Saber Raven. To my knowledge, you can't get it anymore unless you buy it on the black market. It was something you got with a partnership with some graphics card or CPU or something. It's a medium fighter. This one's just like really, really cool looking. It's fast. It has decent firepower. You'll see a lot of Sabers out there, but not a lot of Saber Ravens. Not something you're going to be able to find at Invictus. The Pioneer. So we know that base building is coming. When it does, I'll do a whole video series on it. Right now, we know nothing about it. I have no idea how they plan to do base building when there's only going to be like 100 star systems and a lot of players and instances. I can't wrap my head around how it's going to work. It's not like No Man's Sky where it's basically a single player game. Your buddy joins your server and you show him your base. This is like a persistent game. If you build a base in the forest of Microtech, nobody else can build. Like I have no idea how it's going to work. But it's very cool that there's a heavy ship that you can kind of get all the materials or pay someone who has them to come and land and fabricate a base for you. So this is concept. This is not something sold at Invictus. This is not something we're going to have for a long time. I would speculate we will not see base building until after we get out of alpha. It's a live service game, right? It's going to hit 1.0. Wipes are going to end. Big ship sales are going to end. And they're going to start providing the live service game. Constant DLCs, constant updates. Is it a subscription? I don't know. But I think base building is going to come after that. So I would not waste your money on a base building ship now. I would wait. but I'm very interested to see what they do with base building in the future. Caterpillar we talked about when we looked at the Best in Show, so we'll just skip over the regular one. Saber Comet, we already looked at the Saber Raven. This is just basically the non-limited version of it, different weapons loadout, but it's a medium fighter. I believe it's 4 size 3s on it. It competes with like the Cartual, the Defender. They're all medium fighters with a similar loadout. You've got speed versus maneuverability versus this one's a bit more of a brawler than the other two. Not that any medium fighter is a brawler, but compared to the other two, I would consider it more defensible. 85X, Touring. We need better pictures of this. I'm going to regret clicking off of this, but there we go. Luxury Touring. I believe this one's the 2-seater. It's just designed for taking someone around and showing them the sights. Typically, Origin ships are fast. They're quick little things. They don't have a lot of firepower, but they're quick little things. Oh, it put us way up here. All right, we're gonna get down here as fast as we can. Click open new window. Yeah, I could do that. You're right. It's a good idea, Falling. Oh my god. There's so many ships in this game. Caterpillar Pirate Edition. This is the same story as the Gladius Pirate Edition. It's just the Caterpillar with a paint. Don't waste your money. It's the Caterpillar. It's got a skull and crossbones on it. Like, whatever. Another Vanguard. I mentioned it before. This is the Hoplite. So we saw the Harbinger, the Bomber, the Sentinel, the E-War. This is the drop ship. So same ship, but it has drop seats in it. Meant for carrying crew. It's a smaller than a Valkyrie anyway. Drop ship. A lot of armor, okay speed, carries troops in. Another Reliant. I mentioned before the core wasn't up with the rest of them. This is just the stock Reliant. So we saw the Mako, the Sen, the Tana. This is the core, the basic. Little starter ship, a little bit of cargo, cool design, okay firepower. Not a phenomenal ship, but if you're starting out, it's one of your options that has a bed. So the MPUV. This one is, I think it's popular because it doesn't do anything. It's like a joke that it's so popular. It won Best in Show once because everyone voted it in. It has no quantum drive. It's not fast. It's not maneuverable. This thing is designed for living in a capital ship that cannot dock with a station. So an Idris comes with MPUVs kind of hanging from the ceiling. You likely would not want to dock it with the station to bring over 1 or 2 new people. It's a big ship with high docking fees. So an MPUV personnel would fly over to the station, request docking, land, the people would get on, and it would fly back to the capital ship. So personnel, cargo, and there's a rumored one with a tractor beam for loading cargo coming at Invictus. I don't know why that would come in Invictus. I guess maybe because it lives on a capital ship. But little Argo parasite craft that assists bigger ships. I could see myself having one on the Polaris, like a little personnel one. So you get close to a station, everyone's running around doing their own thing. Hey, you know, co-pilot, can you grab the MPUV, fly over and pick up the guys? We'll wait in the area. That's what it's for. Idris K and M I could see using the MPUV personnel, but the P I think would have the cargo variant. Yeah, probably. Or the new one with the tractor, if that kind of pans out. Starfarer Gemini, heavy refueling. We've talked about refueling ships already, but again, not a major playstyle right now, but I think they're going to have their heyday when they come out. Not something you need to worry about buying as a new person. I don't know why anybody would have one pledged right now when they don't particularly have a use, but I think that there will be groups dedicated to refueling like there were in Elite in the future of this game. Can always try one for free. Saber, we talked about. We saw the other sabers already. This one's just the stealth variant. Stealth is not really a thing yet. I touched on that. You can lower your emissions by changing some of your modules, but it's not fully fleshed out yet. You can make it so you're harder to lock onto until you're closer, but eventually you'll be able to make it so like you can't be even noticed until you're closer. Like the Terapin should be stealth. This should be stealth. The Eclipse should be stealth. So don't expect full stealth if you buy one now. But this is something you can try at Invictus. It is a fighter. Standard Freelancer. We saw the other ones. Freelancer gets a lot of hate because its design's antiquated. I like the Freelancer. I don't know. I think it's a perfectly fine ship. I think people are too focused on combat meta. It's a great little pickup truck. It gets you from A to B. It does the job. There's nothing wrong with it. Vanguard Warden. We saw the other Vanguards already. This is basically the stock one, if you can call it that. The Warden is the all-arounder. Harbinger is the bomber. Then you got the E-War. You got the dropship. The Warden is more affordable, at least in pledge. Similar firepower, similar internals. It's the basic one. You can, again, try them all at Invictus. Don't worry about buying one yet. They're very expensive to pledge. They're not cheap in game. It's something you work your way up to. But they're good ships. They're good fighters. And they have a bed, so you can live on it for a short period of time until you run out of fuel. Constellation Andromeda. We've seen the other constellations now. This is the gunship. So we saw the cargo with the tractor beam. We saw the luxury. We saw the exploration with the scanning suite. This one has the guns and the missiles. It's a great ship. Got turret on top, turret on the bottom. It's got so many missiles and decent firepower for the pilot too. There's nothing bad I can say about this ship. It needs a rework. It's an older design and it needs a rework, but you'll see a lot of constellations out there. Even the Andromeda, which is a gunship, is also a multi-role. It is a competitor for my Corsair. It can do everything in the game just fine. I don't recommend pledging something that big, especially if you're new. But work your way up to one in the game. It's a great ship. You'll call it home in no time. Avenger Warlock and Avenger Titan. So we saw the Titan Renegade and we saw the bounty hunting variant, the Stalker. The Warlock has an EMP. It would work very well with the bounty hunting variant. It can shut things down in its area by blowing the EMP generator in the back. Unlike the other ones that have a rear hatch that you kind of open and walk into to go through the ship through the cargo, the rear hatch here has the EMP. So you enter the ship through the cockpit. You can enter them all through the cockpit, but this is kind of the only option with this one. I don't recommend buying one. It's very limited, but get one in game. Try it at Invictus. It's a really cool little ship. And this is the regular Titan. We saw the Renegade, just doesn't have the paint job on it, but the most well-rounded, affordable starter ship you can get, in my opinion. Crucible, another concept, doesn't exist yet. It's a heavy repair craft. Clearly it's got a bay that you can land and repair your ships. No purpose in the game yet, does not exist yet, don't know much about it yet, besides you can land fighters on it to repair them. I could see war in the future being a reason to have one of these with you in your fleet to repair your fighters. Or somebody runs a small company. You know, I picture like fleet carriers and elite. You know, you would dock one in an abandoned system. You would change the name of your carrier to cheap fuel found here. This is something you would kind of take out and say, anybody needs support. Anybody need repairs, you know, we're here for you. But they got to flush the game out more before this makes any sense. The Endeavor is a long way out. It's another concept. It's a huge capital-sized science vessel. It's got these huge pods on it that are modular and do different things. Modularity barely exists. It's starting with the Retaliator. Ships that big don't really exist in the game yet, except the 890. I don't know a ton about this one. We'll find out more when it gets closer. Just think of it for now as a future thing. And it's also not something you're going to find sold at Invictus, so just don't even worry about it. But it's really cool looking. It reminds me a lot of Prometheus from the Alien film Prometheus. It just has a similar kind of style to it. Retaliator, very popular gunship. its popularity is going to increase at Invictus. They've been talking for a while about how modularity is going to start with the Retaliator, and it's finally here. So we will now have a modular Retaliator. I don't personally care about the Retaliator. I care about modularity because of my Carrick, because of the Galaxy. But one of the modules for the Retaliator is torpedoes, and it has a lot of them. It's the closest ship in size and role to the Rocinante from the Expanse that we have. Not the TV show, the book. The TV show is more like the Polaris. It's bigger, it has more crew, it has more room. If you read the book and the role, the Retaliator is basically that ship. Torpedoes, point defense cannons, tanky, very, very tanky ship. I don't personally enjoy flying it, but you're going to see a lot of hype about it in the coming weeks leading up to Invictus and after, because people who have one pledged or have been thinking about it will have more to talk about. I don't recommend it for new people. I don't recommend it as a pledge. It's very expensive, but it's a cool ship to work your way up to in game. I usually go Redeemer as opposed to Retaliator, but it's kind of two different paths you would take if you're only so much money to spend. The Scythe, so we talked about the Blade and the Glaive. This is another one of them. Now I forget actually if the Scythe or the Glaive is the rarer one. One or the other is actually rarer than the others. But all three are a rare sight in the verse. You don't see a lot of these alien fighters out there. There's nothing wrong with them. I don't know why maybe because they're expensive. In-game and pledge, they're expensive. But all three are the same as far as they are glass cannons. They punch real hard and they can't really take a hit. Try out Vanduul Swarm in Arena Commander and you'll see what I mean. You can shred through these fighters until they start swarming you. Once there's 3 or 4 of them, you're kind of screwed. 323, it's even more so. For example, I was going to do an 890 mission in 323 EPTU. Normally, I could do that mission with my eyes closed. Literally, it's so easy. I approached the 890 and there was a Scythe and a Blade, like NPCs. The first pass they did on me, I lost my shields and half my hull. Not even flight skill. Like I screwed up my turn. Didn't matter. The very first time they passed me, my shields were gone. They punch really hard. They also hit harder if they ram. I was kamikaze by one like 2-3 nights ago and they killed the Corsair instantly. So don't discount them if you see them. But if you maintain time on target, they do blow up pretty easily. Hull E. I'll gloss over the Hull E, D, and B together. We saw the Hull C and we saw the Hull A. Okay, they're big misc. Well, the A isn't, but these are all different size classes of cargo hauler by misc. These won't be sold in Invictus. These are concepts anyway. I don't recommend buying any of them, really. Buy them in game. I'm not saying they're bad ships, but I don't recommend pledging them. Of all of them, I feel like the Hull B looks the coolest. I don't know why. Maybe it's the size profile, whatever it is. It's just kind of got a cooler look to it. But they're industrial freight ships. So forget pledging for a sec. If you're new to the game, wipes are done. It's past 1.0. You buy a Hull A. You haul for a bit. You make some money. You get a Hull B. Keep going. Hopefully they eventually release the ability to trade in or sell ships. Once ship pledging is over, they'll have no reason to not do that. I'm guessing you'll be able to go to a shipyard like you can do in any other space game. No Man's Sky, Eve, Elite, Starfield. You should be able to trade in your Hull A for some cash towards a Hull B. I'm going to assume that's coming at some point. So you would work your way up. But a Hull A is one person, easy. Hull B, 2-3 guys can manage it. Hull D and E, and the one in between, C, that's a crew ship. Like loading this thing is a job for an entire crew. It's big, it's slow, it costs millions of credits to fill it. This is like a shipping vessel. That's all it does. So you're not going to see a lot of these in the verse when it goes live, whether it's pledges or not, until people have saved up some money. But they'll be a cool thing to see passing you in a shipping lane. The Gladiator, I don't see a lot of the Gladiator, and I don't know why. I think it's a cool ship. It's classified as a bomber. It shoots torpedoes. I don't know if it's meant to actually drop bombs. It doesn't. But it's just a tanky little fighter. It's got missiles, it's got guns, it's cool looking. This is one of the ships that'll be in Invictus that you can test fly. I don't know a lot about the Gladiator, so I can't say much more about it, but it will be in Invictus. And what I'm going to do in Invictus is I'm going to do another video like this. This is just to kind of give new people an idea of what's coming. But I will also go to Invictus each day, and I'll stream, and I'll walk through each ship if you don't have time to check them out. But I think the Gladiator is a cool little ship. It's not flown much, but I like it. Retaliator we talked about. Modularity is coming to it. This is just the bomber module. We'll touch on modularity more at Invictus when we see what it actually looks like and works like. But basically it's the ability to swap out central modules in your ship. To take the Retaliator and turning it into a cargo ship, turn it into a bomber ship, or whatever. So we'll learn more about that in Invictus, but this we already talked about this ship. The Orion is sexy as fuck. I don't even know how to describe how cool this ship looks. This is something straight out of like the coolest kinds of sci-fi. This is the kind of thing you'd see in like The Expanse out in the belt. This is a capital class mining vessel. You're gonna need like 15 friends to run this thing. A large operation of mining will happen with this ship. But I think it's gorgeous. I think it's got a really cool, tough, industrial look to it. And the thing about a ship this big, forget that it's a game for a second. In a game, you're just going to fly around by yourself in your cool shiny ship and show it off. You're going to get on the guns, you're going to shoot some things. If you play immersively, if this was like sci-fi, no one's on that gun half the time, the one that's on top here. The crew's working, or they're sleeping, or they're eating, or whatever they're doing. Pirates come attack you. If they're in little ships, they're never going to get through the shields in this thing. Like a Lightning is never going to kill an Orion in the finished game. It's just too big and heavily shielded. But if a pirate fleet shows up, you would have time to tell your crew to run to the guns, start defending yourself, send out a distress call. Do guys from your org come? Do the police come? Do NPCs show up? Does a Javelin? I don't know what pops in. But this is the kind of thing that goes out to go mining and stays out for weeks. I know one person that has one of these pledged, and I cannot wait to crew it. I'm never going to buy one, but I can't wait to be crew on this thing. Aurora, as we talked about, this is just 3 more variants of that starter ship. I'll reiterate for the new guys, if you want to spend very little on this game and just play Star Citizen, $45 starter pack, get the game, get an Aurora. I think they all cost the same. Never bought one. They're all within a couple bucks of each other if not. Just pick one that suits you. Bit more cargo, bit more weaponry, bit more fuel. They're all very similar and there's nothing wrong with them. Don't let anybody tell you that the Aurora sucks. It's just a starter ship. It's fine. More Hornets. We talked about the Hornets already, but you've got the Ghost, the Tracker, and the Super Hornet. Variations here basically are lower signature, and once stealth actually exists fully, this would be a stealth ship. We talked about stealth. The Tracker, I believe, is the one that has the exploration scanning on it. So right now that does nothing, but in the future they'll have longer range scanners to detect things from further away. And probably the ability to store that information somehow, although we don't know yet. And the Super Hornet. Basically, the benefit here is it has a second seat. So the pilot can control the guns here, and the co-pilot can control the gun on top. That's about it. Super Hornet's a bit more popular, I think, because it has a bit more firepower and a co-pilot seat, but, you know, it's right now the Hornet F7C Mark II is the most popular because it's the newest, which we already talked about. Cutless Black, we saw that when we saw the Best in Show. I should say as well, these will all be available to try for free at Invictus at the end of next week now. Cutless will be at the Drake Days at the end of Invictus. You can try it. This was the very popular one I was telling you about. The Genesis, we know very little about. It's a passenger ship. Passenger missions do not exist yet, so we can't say much about them. We've seen luxury passenger ships in the Phoenix. Let's speculate for a second. If you played Elite Dangerous, passenger missions were very straightforward. You go to the mission board, you take one, you fly a ship that has passenger cabins, or you don't. In Elite, you could simply add passenger cabins to your ship. The mission might say, John Smith and his wife want you to take them from point A to point B, and they're offering 20 grand. Cool. Next one might say, you know, this guy and his entire company would like someone to take them from point A to point D. It's going to take you half an hour of flight time. They're offering you $1 million. Awesome. Then there were the truly cool ones, which was like this diplomat and his entire entourage want you to take them from point A to point B to point C to point D to point E, land at point F, scan point G, like all these steps. And along the way, your likelihood of being attacked or pirated or whatever went up, and that would lower their opinion of you and your payout. So my guess would be that the Genesis will be able to do one kind of NPC passenger mission, or I'm sure players will be able to give you contracts for that. But the luxury ships will likely be able to take a certain kind of clientele. That's all. I'm making that up. That's just how Elite Dangerous was. I don't know how Star Citizen is going to do it, but that's all that makes sense to me to make passenger missions actually profitable. Concept, not available. Just wait. 315. So we saw the 100 series of starter ships. This is the 300 series of premium starter ships. So the 100 competes with the Aurora, the Pisces, maybe even the Cutter. The 300 competes with the Avenger, the Sulan, that kind of class of ship. Has an interior, has beds, has decent fuel, has variants with more speed, better scanning and a tractor beam, better weaponry, or the standard stock one. But they're great ships. I have never owned one. I have flown them plenty of times. I often steal the one from the 890 mission. Great little ships. One of them is going to speak to you. One of the vibes, one of the looks of these various ships is going to speak to you. This one did not speak to me, but they're great ships. You'll see them all over the verse. The N50 is slotted in here. It's the same manufacturer. It's Origin. This is a racing ship. It does not have an interior like the 300 or the 100. This is a dedicated racing ship, and it is so fast. I can't even describe how fast this thing is. I'll do a video on racing ships one day. Literally, you can make it from the planet to the orbital before you can finish your sentence. Like, it is so, without even quantum, it is so fast. It is designed for racing. It has small weapons. Sometimes guys use it to kind of fly around you and piss you off, but it is so much fun to fly. It's not even expensive to pledge if you like pledging things, but if you're going to buy one in game, save up, get it to do racing missions. You won't be disappointed. Really fun to fly, really cool looking ship. It looks like a racing ship through and through. The Merchantman. I am not the expert on the Merchantman. All I know is guys have had it pledged as a concept for years and it's still not coming out. And last year they told us it's kind of on the back burner because the person who was working on the ship left the company and now they got to redo the artwork. And it is a giant capital class alien merchant ship. Well, alien human hybrid merchant ship. It's like the size of a cathedral inside the bridge. The cool thing about this ship is it's not just freight, it's also mercantile. So the ability to, say, put a kiosk in your ship, find rare gear, put it for sale on the kiosk, and then advertise to other people that can come to your ship and buy stuff is why the ship is so popular, in addition to the fact that it's just a badass looking alien ship. I am not excited for it because I'm not an alien ship guy, but I understand why there's a lot of excitement for this ship. As I mentioned, it's a concept. It'll only be sold at Alien Week. It's limited sale, and it won't be out for a long time. So I would save your money for now. The Idris. The Idris is one of those ships like the Polaris that's very hyped. It's a giant frigate. It's for a crew of like 20 plus. You can get lost inside. It's so big. There will be the ability to tour and walk through it at Invictus this year. I highly recommend you take the opportunity if you've never been inside one before. I would like to remind all the solo guys out there who want their own Idris that It is massive. It is slow. It will be expensive to run, operate, dock, crew, and you'll need a number of people to crew it. This is designed for a very large group in end game content. I do not recommend pledging this. I do not recommend rushing one in game. It is concept right now anyway. But once it is in game, it'll be very cool to see them kind of passing you at the station and stuff. It'll be no threat to little ships because it'll never catch them. And it won't be scared of much, except probably the Polaris. So go to Invictus, check and see where it is. It'll be traveling the system, and go for a tour of this ship. And you see Idris P, Idris M. There's different variants of the ship. Basically, it's like the Retaliator. It has different kind of kits of what it includes inside, what guns. Does it have the railgun? Does it not have the railgun, etc.? I forget which is which, but different variants of the same ship. F7A Hornet Mark II is already showing up on here. We saw the F7C Hornet Mark II. This is the military variant. This is the ship that if you complete the Overdrive Initiative, that you will get a free upgrade from the C to the A. It's an upgun version of the same ship. To my knowledge, it does not have better armor, better shields, or more fuel. I'm hoping that changes because the F8A has more fuel and better power plant than the F8C. I'm hoping the F7A does too, but according to current data mining, it does not. I would love it if it had more fuel than the F7C, but we'll see what happens. But this is the F7A. You'll see a lot of these at Invictus this year because a lot of guys did overdrive and they're going to get one for free. So you'll see a lot of these flying around and then they'll kind of fall by the wayside as the next shiny thing comes along. Cutter Rambler. We haven't hit any of the cutters yet in this kind of walkthrough. So if you're a new person, the cutter is a starter ship that I love. We've talked a lot tonight about how there's not meant to be a ship that beats the others, but you'll find ships in the same category will all be different sides of the same coin. So the Carrick versus the 600i Explorer are competing. One does some stuff better, one does other stuff better. The Cutter Rambler kind of sits alongside, I think it kind of sits alongside the Avenger. They both have interiors. The Avenger has more firepower, the Rambler has more fuel. The Cutter can hold more cargo than the Avenger, but the Avenger is faster and more maneuverable. So the Avenger feels more combat driven. The Cutter variants all feel more exploration driven than say the Avenger. The Rambler is the exploration variant of them. It has more fuel. It's the Space Winnebago. I think it's very cool. It's a great little ship. I love the Cutter. I have the Cutter Scout. It's in my buyback, so I'm not flying it right now. But Solarize, thanks for the follow, buddy. Appreciate that. Great little ship. If you're brand new to the game, you're looking for something, it'll probably be sold at Drake Days at the end of Invictus. And I think it's great. Solarize, do I really have to do 10 push-ups, buddy? How is it? I feel like I have to because he just followed me and wants me to do this. All right. We're doing 10:30 p.m. push-ups in the dark. That woke me up. So for the guys watching on YouTube after the fact, this is also streaming to Twitch, and Twitch rewards are popping up. People are making me do push-ups and dips and drinking water and all the rewards and stuff, so I don't look like a crazy person. Okay, that's the Cutter. We'll get to the rest in a minute. I like the Cutter a lot. If you're brand new, get one. I'll probably do a giveaway for a Cutter, maybe at IAE this year. I'm going to do the Pulse Bike as a giveaway at Invictus. Maybe IAE. I'll pick a Cutter and we'll do like a stream giveaway. Okay. The Arastra, I mentioned it earlier, talking about mining. I think it's gorgeous. I'm not a miner. I will gladly crew one of these. It's bigger than the Mole and smaller than the Orion. It's a multi-crew mining ship. I would argue you need a crew to use something like this. I know some guys disagree with that, but this is the kind of ship that's going to go out and do a mid-scale mining operation by itself. It just also happens to be a really good-looking ship, in my opinion. I like the design of it a lot. Not out yet, concept. I doubt this will be at Invictus as a sale. It's not a combat ship, but maybe next year it'll come out. It's a very cool ship. C1 Spirit, one of the few ships that I ever concept pledged. I don't have it now, but there's nothing wrong with it. It just kind of clashed with my Corsair a little bit. It's a little too big for me for its weight class. I think it should be smaller. This is a competitor for the Cutlass and the Freelancer. So again, as I've mentioned, there's a lot of ships that kind of sit in the same weight class to give you choice. Don't listen to anybody who says this ship's better than that ship. Okay, they're just different. The Spirit sits alongside the Cutlass, the Freelancer, and the Zeus. It does some things better than them and some things worse than them, but it balances out. I think it's the best looking of them. That's personal. But this ship with the concierge paint, oh, so good. I might get it back one day. But it's basically in a straight line. It's the fastest of them. Has a great placement for its tractor beam. And there's currently 3 variants, the C1, and we'll look at the A1 and the E1 when we get to them. But if you're buying something in-game, a step up from, say, your Avenger, this is another option for you as opposed to a Cutlass. If you are the kind of person who wants to pledge a ship, this is another option for you as well. It's not very expensive. It can do a little bit of everything. It's great for you and a buddy. Got beds, cargo space. It's great. The Storm, I have mixed feelings about. We've talked about a lot of ground vehicles tonight. I don't want to go over it too much, but it is a small tank. It is a one-person tank. My problem with it is I don't think it handles well. It feels like I'm skating on ice when I drive the thing. A lot of guys are really excited about it. It fits in more ships than most of the other tanks. I think it's cool. I think it's great that they added it. I think one day it'll have its use. It'll be sold at Invictus. You can test drive one. I've never test driven the Storm AA, so I'll definitely rent one of those in Invictus. But not something I would buy. I would wait it out. But one day in the future, when these ground vehicles start to matter, I could see keeping one of these in the back of the Polaris. And when you have to storm a facility or something, you've got the guys in the Spartan going in. The captain of the ship could get into this thing and go in. It's single man. You get into it, you kind of slide into the cockpit. It reminds me a lot of what was the one from the Dark Knight? The Tumbler. It reminds me of the Batmobile from like Christian Bale's Batman films. You get into it, you kind of like adjust, you lower yourself down to the seat, and it's a one-man tank. But it's a light tank. It does not take a hit very well, but it gets in fast. It's basically a forward recon tank. Very cool. Highly recommend trying one for free at Invictus. Don't recommend buying one. The Sulin or Sulin, however you want to pronounce that, that's the alien starter. We talked about it when I showed you the Raylan. This is another premium starter option that sits alongside the Cutter and the Avenger. The Cutter being a little bit cheaper, but it has decent fuel, decent firepower, decent range. It lands weird. I would try one for free before buying it. It doesn't land down like a ship. It comes in and it lands on its ass. It's very cool. I forget the name of the guy who designed it, to give him credit. He did a whole video on it. He was very proud of it, as he should be. It is the most unique ship currently in the game, in my opinion. I just could not get the hang of landing the thing. But very cool design, great paints. Try one. If you like it, it could be a good starter option for you. I doubt it'll be sold. Oh, it won't be at Invictus. It'll probably be Alien Week, which, like I said, I think is June. But great little ship. Try it out. Next time I see one, I'll try to get you guys a tour on stream. The A1. So we talked about the Spirit, the C1. This is the bomber variant. So the C1 is a small version of the C2. The A1 is a small version of the A2. Drops bombs half the size. It drops them in kind of sequence, kind of carpet bombs. Was very useless until 323, and now there are actually destroy like fuel outpost missions, fuel depot missions, and the A1 is great for them. So it's fun to fly. I personally wouldn't pledge one. It's available in game starting 323. It's now in the game in that patch to be bought at Crusader. Something to try. It's a cool ship. This is sort of like the competitor for like a Cutlass Blue or a Freelancer Miss. Like it's the combat variant of the Spirit series. It also has a turret on the back, like a defense turret, as opposed to a tractor beam like the C1. Cutter Scout. We talked about the Cutter. The Cutter Rambler has the fuel. The Cutter Scout is a cheap competitor for the Terapin. It's a scanning ship. It's a reconnaissance ship. That's why I chose it. I like that gameplay loop. I want to park that thing in my Polaris. Not much else I can say about the Cutter Scout. Less fuel than the Cutter Rambler, but still very good fuel for its size and class. And plus the Cutter Scout came with like a midnight black paint job that's not shown here that I really liked. Fate C Lightning and Lightning Executive. Lightning Executive is one that you get from spending a certain amount in the game. That used to be the only way to get the Lightning, and then they opened it up for golden and platinum ticket holders last year, much to the annoyance of the guys who had spent so much money to get one unlocked this way. It was heralded as the meta fighter for a little bit until the next thing came out, which is what typically happens in Star Citizen. It's a heavy fighter. It has good firepower, good shields, and good armor. It is not a meta. You can demolish one of these in a Gladius because it can't hit you. But it is a good fighter. I feel that it's designed for fighting things bigger than it. Like it excels at fighting the Cutlass, the Freelancer, even the Andromeda. It punches really hard for its size and it can take a hit, but it's slow for a fighter. It's fast compared to a Constellation, but and it's gotten slower in 3.23. So good ship, very popular. PvPers love it. There's nothing wrong with it, but do not believe people telling you, oh, it's the meta, oh, it's the best, it's pay to win. It's not. There's guys I know who kill these things left, right, and center with, say, the Ares, or a Cutlass can take it on pretty well. And the F7A is going to outgun it by a decent margin. So get it because you like the design. Get it because you like the fact that it has a lot of fuel. Don't get it because you think it's going to make you the best at the game. Okay? Fury LX, this is the first Fury we're seeing. They're snubcraft. They have no quantum drive. This is the racing version. They are extremely fast, extremely maneuverable. The other ones have guns. This one strips them off for speed. They're very cool. If it had a quantum drive, I'd use it a lot more. I have the regular Fury. Force has 2 guns on that one, but cool little ship, great little design. What I like about this is it's more of a futuristic look. There's a lot of ships in this game that have sort of like a World War II look, because that's what Chris Roberts is into aesthetic-wise, which nothing wrong with that. Even the Lightning, I mean, it looks like a spaceship, but it still looks like a plane. The Fury looks like something out of Tron. Like, it looks like a spaceship. It looks futuristic to me. So I like the look. There's been rumors for a while of a heavy Fury, of like a heavy fighter to compete with the Lightning made by Mirai. It hasn't happened yet. We were hoping this year. I don't think it's going to happen. But that's why I'm so excited for that potential ship to be leaked, is because this, but this size, would be incredibly cool. The Lynx, this is the luxury variant of the Ursa that we already looked at. Not much to say about it. More windows, little mini bar, less armor, less shields. It's a ground vehicle that's going to go with a game loop that doesn't exist yet. We have the 2 Furies. The Fury and the Fury MX are almost guaranteed to be available at Invictus. They are not expensive, either in-game or to pledge, but I recommend renting them, like anything else, to try for free. This one, the Fury, has 4 size 2s and a couple of size 1 missiles. This one is just missiles. Very smart on their part, because the Fury MX looks freaking badass. It has this like armored cover that comes down over the cockpit, and then these are cameras, and so you can actually see through this. It lowers, and then you see the camera's power on, and you're looking through this combat visor. It's so cool, but it's useless, because when the missiles are done, like, you're out of the fight. It has no other guns. I wish that the regular Fury also had this combat visor. So I have the regular Fury. You don't see the Fury MX around very often, but the Fury is incredibly fast, incredibly maneuverable. It makes a really good support craft for bigger ships. So instead of a Pisces and a Carrick, you can put 2 Furies. You land at a ground site, your crew gets out, they're doing a mission. The Fury can take off and provide air support really well, but it needs to be near a larger craft because it has no quantum drive and not a lot of fuel. Once capital ships have markers, once you can say, my Carrick is here, and find your way back to it, which is coming really quick because we already now have the ability to set markers in cities. The next step is to set markers on planets. I would then land my Carrick far away, get out in the Fury, and take off, go exploring or something, right? Right now you would lose your ship if you did that. There's no way to find your way back to it unless you have like a box marker or some other way of hacking it left behind. The Galaxy. Galaxy, I don't think will be sold at Invictus. It's a concept. It's been a concept for about 2 years. They're working on RSI ships first, so I wouldn't expect it to be too long until you get this one, but it's not going to be soon. Maybe IAE this year. It was originally teased at IAE 2 years ago, so it's possible. It's roughly Carrick sized. I think it's a cool looking ship. It reminds me of the Python from Elite. What I don't like about it is that they sold it with basically modules being mandatory. So this central area inside is modular. If you don't buy a module, it's literally a blocked off empty room. You can't do anything with it. So you need to buy a cargo module. The Carrick with no modules is cargo. The Galaxy with no modules is nothing. But it does have refinery module to assist with mining. It has a cargo module with a lot of cargo. I forget the number. It has a medical module. You can put a hospital in, and there's more coming. There's rumors of like a base building module and stuff. So very cool, modular, primarily industrial ship. Very cool looking. A lot of people have them. I wouldn't expect it yet, but something unique that's coming. Medical Pisces. We've talked about the Pisces and we've talked about medical ships. This is a Pisces with a medbed. I will say that for a new person starting out, it is another decent premium starter option. You want to start, and go combat, go Avenger. You want to start and go exploration, go Cutter. You want to start and go medical or support, go Pisces. You can't log out in it. It's not a log out bed. It's a medical bed, but it's a great handy little ship. Or be part of a crew. Your buddy has a Polaris, your buddy has a Carrick. Maybe you make your starter ship the C8R Pisces and you park it in his ship as support. But it's a good premium starter option for the new guys who are watching. Regular Cutter, we talked about the Cutter and we talked about the Rambler and the Scout. This is the base variant. So one has scanning, one has more range, one has a bit more cargo. That's basically it, but they're great little starter ships. The E1 Spirit. This is the variant of Spirit that is not out yet. So we have the A1, we have the C1, and both will be purchasable in-game as of 3.23, so you don't have to pledge them. The E1 is for passenger missions, which don't exist yet, so I think they're just waiting until they have those missions in, which we discussed with the last two passenger ships we looked at. But if you want something that's kind of a smaller size and does passenger missions, this will eventually be an option for you. The STV, I don't have to say much about that. We talked about the Cyclone quite a bit. This is a cheap, small, I got 2 of these for free as referral bonuses. A little ground vehicle. Fits nicely in your Cutless Black. Got some nice paints. Not much else I can say about it. It's quick. It holds one friend. We've got 2 people in the vehicle. You can park it in just about every ship. I like mine a lot. I upgraded mine to a Cyclone. That's my ground vehicle. But until then, I really enjoyed the thing. I don't recommend buying ground vehicles with real money. They're cheap in game. But if you're going to buy one in game, it's a good starting point to get an STV. Benefit of these right now is you can land your ship further out and drive into bunkers or ground sites or distribution centers that have turrets and avoid the turrets because turrets don't shoot at ground vehicles or hover vehicles anymore if their emissions are below a certain point. So we're getting there. Centurion, another ground vehicle. It's got big turrets. It's not particularly useful in my opinion. If you're going to do Jump Town or something and hold it down, sure. But like the other ground vehicles, and same as the STV, buy it in game. And at Invictus, as I've been saying all night, rent it for free. If you're a new player, go to Invictus every day. Go to the showroom floor, walk up to every single vehicle and ship and just click rent. Just try them all. And you'll get a better feel for these things. And then I'll do a walkthrough, I'll do a stream, we'll talk about them. Our next concept, the Legionnaire. This one's getting close. They've been telling us a lot about this one. I think this will be out before IAE. I think this will be out between Invictus and IE is my personal belief. It's not a big ship. I think the design's basically done. But the hacking gameplay and the boarding gameplay doesn't exist yet, so they're working on that. It reminds me a lot of the Terapin. I think it's got a really nice design, but basically it has this, I don't want to click through to it and mess up my scrolling here, but this front end here protrudes out. It's got a walkway that comes out the front like a mosquito. So this ship is fast and maneuverable and small, and you fill it with Marines. You're fighting a Idris in your Polaris, and you manage to use a torpedo to take out its engines, and it's adrift. The Legionnaire comes flying in at high speed, avoiding heavy fire from the turrets. It hacks the airlock on approach to take control. It docks with it, and then it extends out this nose, and barriers pop up in it for the Marines. And the Marines can then breach the Idris and go inside and take it over. I think it's going to be a huge thing in the game, boarding. This is the first boarding craft we're going to get, and they've been teasing it a lot lately. This is still a concept. You will likely not see it on Invictus this year, but it will be available to look at as a hologram. So you can go to the hologram showroom and kind of get a better idea. It'll be for sale. It's about $100, $110, I think. I'm not a big pledger of concepts. I said I don't recommend spending your money till you see what you're getting, but I'm very excited to watch this one. This is a ship that I could see myself parking in the Polaris for my crew to use. Not to pledge. It's very niche, but think of it like a little dropship that can also board. It's cool. The Mule doesn't really do what it's supposed to do yet. It's a little pickup truck. Oh, sorry, a little forklift. Once we have our personal hangars in, and once this works properly, you would drive this around, scoop the boxes. They would clip in the front. You drive them in the back of your ship, and you go back and forth. It's available in game. It's not expensive. It doesn't really do much yet. I think it'll be very useful with personal hangars in the very near future, which we will look at when those come out in a 3.23 dot patch. Hover quad is a hover bike. We talked about the Dragonfly. It's a hover quad. What else do I have to say? Yeah. The Odyssey is incredibly sexy. It is a capital-sized explorer. We looked at the Carrick at length. Think of the Odyssey as a bigger version of that, but they're very different types of exploration. You will see a lot of Reddit threads around which is better, the Odyssey or the Carrick. The answer is neither. They are just different. The Carrick is a dedicated explorer. The Odyssey is a home away from home expedition craft. It can craft its own fuel from asteroids. It can stay out forever. But it doesn't have the same medical facilities. It doesn't have the same level of military armor. It can't lend as many places. It can't go through the same jump gates. It doesn't have a jump point scanner. It's different. I think it's a great looking ship. I cannot wait to see it, but I'm going to stick with the Carrick. Concept, not out yet. Will not be at Invictus. The Raft, another cargo ship. We've talked about cargo ships tonight. This is a smaller one than the Caterpillar. Bigger than the Hull A. It's a cargo ship. I like the design of the Argo ships for sure. Cyclone MT. I don't know why this is all the way down here. I talked about this when we talked about the Cyclones. There's a lot of them. This is the missile variant. I always buy this one in game. It's a Cyclone. The Expanse. This has been a concept for a very long time. It is a small refinery ship. It is meant to work alongside a mining ship. So you send out your mole with you and your buddies. You're mining an asteroid. You don't want to go all the way back to a refinery station because it's a dangerous route. You call in the Expanse. The Expanse comes, takes the saddlebags off your ship, refines the ore for you, and then a cargo ship picks up those pods and flies them to sell. So the Expanse is part of a mining operation. It's very small. It's hard to tell here, but it's not a big ship at all. But that's its role. It's part of a mining operation. I like the look of it. I can't wait to try one out. I have no interest in owning one, but I would love it if in the future somebody I know has one and they're out mining and I log in, hey, how can I help with mining? Should I come for combat support? No, we're safe. Can you go to my hangar and grab the Expanse and come meet us? Sure. Seems like a cool little ship to have. Zeus. You will see a lot of hype about these this year. They were first released for concept at CitizenCon last year. They are expected to come out for flyable at CitizenCon this year. That is a rumor, but I believe it because they are getting very fast at doing small ships, and that's how long the C1 took them. The C1 was announced at CitizenCon and came out at CitizenCon. They are similar size to the Cutlass, the Freelancer, the Spirit, now the Zeus, a little bit smaller, but they're the same weight class. And you have your exploration variant, your cargo variant, and your combat variant. So much like the Cutlass is in the Freelancers. They're the new, so they're the shiny, they're the one that everyone's talking about, but they sit in line. This cargo variant will have benefits over the Cutlass, and it will have drawbacks, likely firepower, maneuverability. This will have benefits over the Dur and drawbacks. This will have benefits over the, I don't know, Freelancer Miss and drawbacks. But they're nice looking little ships, and some guys are very excited about them. I like the design language. I don't have one. Maybe I'll get one in game, but they're very nice little ships. I'll do a whole video on the Zeus when it gets closer to release and we have a proper trailer for it. My God, it took us 3 hours to go through every... Look at this list we just went through. Christ. Okay. That is every ship in Star Citizen that is either currently available or in concept in 3 hours. I will do my best to timestamp this, but let me reiterate the point of this video. 3.23 is coming out soon. Actually, if I flip screens here and check, there's no updates right now in testing chat. So it's coming soon. If I had to speculate, I'd say tomorrow. It's gonna be buggy. It's a big patch. There'll be issues, but they're probably gonna push it to live tomorrow or the next day. 3.23 is gonna bring a lot of people to the game. Then Invictus starts in about 2 weeks, week and a half. That brings a lot of new people to the game. The point of this video, whatever the title is going to be, is to show new people all of the ships to choose from and a reason why or why not to get them. I think hopefully there'll be some value for the people who watch this live. If you're watching it on YouTube, please forgive me if there aren't timestamps yet. I'm probably going to do that tomorrow or the next day. But just scroll along until you see the ship that you're interested in pop up, and hopefully my thoughts on it help you. There aren't many ships that I recommend pledging. If you want to spend your money, you buy whatever you want. But there's really no need to pledge a lot of these ships. And please, before you pledge them, fly them for free during Invictus, or wait a couple months to fly them for free at IAE. Don't fall for the hype of the new ship. Oh my God, get it now, it's limited. You don't have to. Okay? It's always going to come back around. They told us that the Lightning was limited. Then they made platinum tickets. Then they made gold tickets. Now just about anybody can buy a Lightning. It's the same with any of them. Don't feel rushed. Pick the ship that's right for you and your playstyle. Mist says, once it goes live, I'll start playing Star Citizen again. Yeah, I feel that. I've been playing all the way through. But I took tonight off playing to make this video because I wanted to talk about Star Citizen, but I just didn't feel like flying. Because I've been playing in EPTU 323, which is great, but it wipes every day. So I needed tonight to just kind of look at ships and stuff. I think that's it. 3 hours of people watching. A lot of you stuck around. It's been awesome. Let me do the stuff that I got to do at the end of all these videos, okay? I've been back to streaming for about 60 days. It's been doing really well. A lot of you guys have been coming back in for my Elite days and my No Man's Sky days. If you're watching, I really appreciate the subscribes or the follows or whatever each platform has. If you're already following and subscribing, sharing the videos helps me out a lot, or commenting or tagging your buddies so they see stuff. Why bother following me and stuff? I do a lot of ship videos, and I think they're slowly getting better. I do a lot of live streams, usually with the crew, to show real Star Citizen gameplay. Our Discord does giveaways. Mist, thanks for the follow, buddy. Our Discord does giveaways. During Invictus, we're going to do a Pulse giveaway. During IAE, we'll do a different ship giveaway. and mentioning our Discord, you're welcome to join it. You don't have to be in our org, which we have, to join our Discord and hang out and ask questions. If you're new, just jump in and just ask us for help with the game. And if you're thinking about signing up for Star Citizen after watching this video, wait. There's going to be a free fly event at Invictus. It's in a week and 4 days. You'll be able to play for a week for free. And if you do get the game, I'll put a link to my referral code at the bottom of this video. And basically, if you use my code, you get free money in game and I get rewards. Like if 2 more people use my code, I get a free ship. So just transparently, that's why I want you to use it. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for asking your questions. Thanks in advance for commenting stuff at the bottom and YouTube and all that. And I will catch everyone, let's be honest, tomorrow, the next day when 323 comes out, I'll be streaming the crap out of everything. So hopefully I'll see you guys then. Have a great night.